and gentlemen, welcome to this edition of Human Rights Arrest and Arbitrary Torture in Africa and Cameroon in particular. So right here, I'm the host, Dennis Lehman from Ohio and coordinator of AMHEC, that is Ambas Bay Heritage and Economic Centers. I'm here with a rich panel from Africa and Europe. So we will start by introducing our panel. I will want to introduce Comrade PK. Comrade PK, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in Europe and your views on human rights in Africa and Cameroon in particular?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Lehman. I appreciate to be here. Thank Nalova B for actually even bringing up the topic to my attention. And yes, to those panelists, I don't know, actually, I wish you a wonderful start for this new year, 2024. Yes, just to make it very short and simple, I live now in Switzerland. I've been in Germany before after leaving Cameroon in the end of the 80s after my A-levels to study engineering, and afterwards I did economics and finance. So I'm in Switzerland and very much preoccupied with human rights, economic flow, which actually is very much a lever on the human rights issues today. We've realized actually that most of our lives in Africa don't really matter because I think we don't really score high on the economic scale. We've seen the bias that actually the international community promotes in front of our eyes today. With the help of social media, we can track those things going on. And today we have this opportunity that technology has caught up with us in such a way that we can actually interact with each other, talk and see who we're talking to. Back in the days, we had to go through a national television to maybe ask our points of view, which we never had. Today, from the comfort of our bedrooms and offices, we can do that at will, which is wonderful. So I think we are very much lucky to be living in these times, and also with what's taken in us to make us look at that humanity, which really matters very much in this world, especially from where we are coming from, which is right now deep in all types of vices. So it's very important that a normal, sane human being who actually cherishes civilization, human rights should be his concern. Some people might say, oh, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not this, I'm not that. But actually, human rights is human. It has to be, in every walks of life. It doesn't really matter what you are, whatever. Even the soldier who has a gun actually has to think of human rights. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Comrade PK, for that brilliant introduction. Comrade Max, always nice to have you on such a program. I follow you closely on YouTube, Facebook, and I know a lot how you care about the situation of human rights and arbitrary arrest. So I want you to introduce yourself to our panelists and to our viewers. Tell us a little bit about you and your views on human rights in general in Cameroon and Africa as a whole.
Alors, I'm going to speak in French because my English is not good.
Okay. Oh, no, that's perfect. That's perfect. We are happy to have you speak any language you are comfortable in.
Thank you. Alors, bonsoir déjà à tout le monde, bonsoir. Je suis très content d'être là. Je vais quand même encore me présenter. Max Senior Ivoire, pour ceux qui me suivent depuis très longtemps sur les réseaux sociaux. Je suis activiste, justement, militant des droits de l'homme et actuellement vice-président de l'association Brigade Anti-Sardina Europe. Voilà. Et si effectivement nous avons créé la Brigade Anti-Sardina, c'était justement à cause de la situation des droits de l'homme au Cameroun, dans notre pays, qui va de plus en plus de mal en pire. Parce que vous pouvez voir, n'est-ce pas, toutes les organisations comme Amnesty International et consorts qui mettent le Cameroun dans une liste rouge concernant la situation des droits de l'homme. Je pense que nous sommes vraiment dans une situation où il faut réellement s'intéresser de plus en plus. Il faudrait que les Africains puissent s'intéresser à la situation des droits de l'homme en Afrique. C'est parce que les Africains sont un peu, pour le moment, nous sommes un peu dispersés. On n'arrive pas à se concentrer sur l'essentiel. Et je pense que c'est ce qu'il faut réellement faire. Et on pourra ensemble y parvenir. Donc, c'est un peu ce que je pourrais dire pour mon introduction.
Oh, merci beaucoup, mon frère. Toujours ravi de te voir et partager tes idées tellement brillantes et profondes. And let me switch now to the person who made all of this possible. I reserve introducing myself because I wanted to, as we always say, ladies before gentlemen. But I want to give you now this time, Madame Naowabi. You are a household name in our current process. In fact, in our current livelihood, every household name knows you. The international community have had a lot to do with you. You are one of those what they call enigmatic figures. You know, everybody wants to hear from you, but you keep to yourself so much because you respect your words. So I want you to introduce yourself again. Tell us a little bit about you, where you grew up, how you came into the human rights activism, and what is your trajectory?
Thank you very much, Kamira Lehman. First, I would love to appreciate the fact that you all could take out time from your busy schedules. Someone like PK, I know he's always busy to make this possible, even if not for anything, but for those in jail. I understand, like you said, that someone that everyone talks about. It doesn't matter good or bad. That's life. Like you know, I came into the struggle in 2016 with the consortium back then, where we were fighting for economic changes for our people. And then you know the rest of the story. I'm sure we didn't come here to talk about the rest of the story. But today we are somewhere that we didn't anticipate we were going to get to. We had initially wanted better living standards for our people, but the response of the government pushed the people so far, not even to federation, but so far to wanting to have what we were deprived of, you know, from the beginning. I, like you say, I like to keep to myself. It's not something that started. It's something that has been since I got into the struggle. I don't believe that talking too much in a liberation war really gets any of us anywhere. It only puts you in more problems than many of us think. You can, yeah, I'm a human rights activist for Africa and also for Amazonians. I was one of those that were arrested, like you know, on the 5th of January 2018 with 11 others. Well, all the others were men. It was unfortunate that I was the only lady amongst them. The reason why I'm out is not what I don't think we want to discuss that now. Maybe you want to ask me later. I think it's something that a lot of Amazonians want to hear. Why were you the only one? I keep hearing people saying that, like, why were you the only one that was released? Then I ask myself, I don't understand. When you hear Nera 12, then you hear Nera 10, then how come I was the only one that was released? But then I began to think maybe it's because I'm a woman, you know, the easier target. But maybe the men don't know me too well. I think I'm stronger than many men. So basically that's it. I'm still much in the struggle, but right now I don't think that being loud in the struggle really helps us. And I don't think a lot of arguments help also. I've decided to do the things that I can do, the possibilities, not the impossibles. You know, I have carved my lane in the struggle and I decided to stay on it.
Now, I mean, thank you very much for that brilliant introduction. I think all of us, we came from that part of the continent. I myself, I grew up in Bamenda, went to school in Yaoundé, Yaoundé 1 and Yaoundé 2, because I was in the law faculty. We are all familiar with the human rights history of our nation. You know, the nation was built basically on the violation of human rights, in the sense that our country started with this history where people came from nowhere, installed themselves on our territory, on our people, and now our people had to fight to free themselves. That is the birth of our country. And it is very, very frustrating when we, as the younger generation, we have to inherit some of these problems caused by external and internal forces that we really don't have full control of. But you said something that really piqued my mind about the Nera 12, and I'm happy that you brought up that topic in conjunction of this topic we are talking about, which is arbitrary arrest and human rights violation. So tell us a little bit. You talked about Nera 10 and then you talked about Nera 12. Just briefly, you said you were the only one released, but you said you guys were 12 of you. Then it moved to Nera 10. Was there one person that might be lost their lives, or we don't know, just evaporated?
Okay. Thank you for that question. Actually, we were 12 of us.
Okay.
11 men and myself.
Okay.
And you had Dr. Ojong. He's, I don't know, but I think he should be in Nigeria because he's very well, he has invested a lot in Nigeria. So I guess he should be there. Dr. Ojong had done a lot for our refugees. You know, he had given his hotel. He has a hotel in Calabar, if I'm not mistaken. And he had helped refugees who came in and didn't have places to go to shelter them, provide them with food. Basically, he was like the first stop, you know, for most refugees at the time when, you know, we had so many influx of refugees coming in. You see, the fortunate thing is Dr. Ojong is partly Nigerian and partly Cameroonian too. Okay. And he has been in Nigeria for a very long time. I think even before I was born. So basically, he's more of a Nigerian than a Cameroonian.
Oh, okay. That explains why he could not be extradited back to Cameroon.
Yes, that explains why both of us could not be extradited to Cameroon. If you would know of the Nigerian Constitution, I studied law in Nigeria, as you know. Yeah, if you check their Article 26, it says that you are a Nigerian citizen, nationality by birth, if any of your grandparents, whoever was a citizen of Nigeria as at the time of independence.
Wow.
Yes.
So actually that article is what saved your life.
Yeah. And so I have roots to Nigeria and I had a Nigerian passport, which a couple of even Ambazonians knew about it, including the Nera 11, okay, the other 11, they knew about it. And so actually we were at the point of being sent to Cameroon. I was at the airport with the rest of the team.
Wow.
You know, yes, we were 12 of us at the airport when the plane came ready to move. And I was so scared. I've never been scared in my life, but I was scared. I think that's the only thing that has ever gotten me scared. Dr. Ojong was the one who asked the I don't know who they were, military, police, I have no idea. He was the one who asked them that, so they want to send even Nigerian citizens to Cameroon. Of course, we already knew at that point we were going to Cameroon because the seal of the military plane was very large, you know, anybody could see it. So we knew we're going home, you know. And when he said that, and then the guy said, oh, he forgot that some of us said we had Nigerian origin. So he said, who are those? You'll be shocked. I couldn't even put my hand up because my children had left Nigeria and Cameroon to Nigeria. Okay. And now I was leaving my children in Nigeria and going back to Cameroon. Who was going to take care of them? You know, my daughter was not even up to a year old, if I'm not mistaken, by then. So I ran to Nigeria without my daughter and then struggled to bring my children, you know, to Nigeria. And then now Nigeria was taking me back to Cameroon with my children in Nigeria who didn't even know where I was. You know, I was so tense that it was Dr. Ojong that pointed me and said, this lady and myself are Nigerians. Now, it took, after he did that, it took more than an hour of phone calls. You know, you could see the people from the bus. We were sitting in these 16-seaters buses. You could see them from outside making calls, talking for more than an hour. Basically, I guess they were calling whoever was in charge of the transportation or whatever thing it was. And then finally the guy came and said, okay, fine, both of you stay, the rest of you out. You see, that is how I didn't get to that plane.
Oh, I mean, that makes a lot of sense now. And I think to our viewers who are out there who have been asking that question, how did you escape that nightmare? And you said something real quick, which I wanted to answer that before I turn to Comrade Max. You said the plane had an emblem that you could see, which was really big. So what you are telling us is that it is not a Nigerian plane that took you guys out for deportation or for extradition. It was a Cameroon plane that came to Nigeria and collected you guys.
Yeah, with bees. At least I could identify the bees because it was just a year that I left Cameroon and we knew all about the bees. The people who came, I'm sure, because they all were black, like, I don't know what they told them, but it looked like we were these very armed people that we could even get into the plane, and they were well armed, eyes closed, like they were going for military combat, but it was a Cameroon military plane, that's for sure.
Wow. Thank you very much for that. Let me turn to Comrade Max. Comrade Max, you have been one of those who have advocated for fair trial, fair process, regardless if you're a criminal or you are an innocent citizen. Every citizen needs their rights to be respected, that they need the right to hearing, and then a judge sees them, and then a decision is passed, and then it can be executed. I don't know if you really got what Naloba said about the situations of their arrest and extradition back to Cameroon. What is your take? Do you think the rights of those individuals were respected generally?
Déjà, est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Très bien, 5 sur 5.
Ok. Déjà, là, on va parler du Cameroun et le Cameroun n'est pas un pays normal. Parce que dans un pays normal, effectivement, les règles de droit et de loi sont respectées. Déjà, premièrement, par le gouvernement en place. Sauf qu'au Cameroun, tout est au-dessus de la normale. En fait, tout est bizarre au Cameroun. Exactement comme la situation que Baristanalo a vécue. C'est incroyable. Vous voyez un peu la façon dont ils ont extradé, n'est-ce pas, le sieur Sissi Kouayouk Tabé, n'est-ce pas? Donc, la situation au Cameroun est, comme je dirais, catastrophique. Et ces gens se basent sur un article de loi qui a été voté à l'Assemblée nationale en 2014, si je ne me trompe pas, soi-disant condamnant le terrorisme. Sauf que lorsque vous lisez cet article de loi, il y a beaucoup de choses qui ont été ajoutées, comme peut-être lorsque vous engagez une manifestation, vous êtes considéré comme un terroriste parce qu'on dit que vous appelez à l'insurrection. Donc, en fait, le pays là est complètement bizarre. Si le pays là n'est pas bizarre, comment est-ce que des avocats qui revendiquent leurs droits, des avocats, des hommes de droit, de loi qui revendiquent leurs droits, sont molestés par des policiers? Des avocats qui n'ont commis aucun acte, qui n'ont posé aucun acte brutal, qui revendiquaient juste leurs droits. Donc, vous voyez à quel niveau ce genre de gouvernement peut arriver. Donc, justement, moi, je ne sais pas ce que je vais dire à ce niveau. Tout simplement, ce pays n'est pas normal. Voilà.
Merci beaucoup, mon frère. Et je pense qu'on a vécu ça de temps en temps. Et même si on n'a pas été arrêté expressément, mais on a eu le cas où les gens en tenue, ils ont brutalisé les matères, les enfants, les femmes, les garçons. Donc, je partage ton avis complètement.
Et justement, pour ajouter, comme je disais, les hommes de droit, puisque vous venez de parler des femmes, des enfants et tout, c'est au-dessus de ça. C'est-à-dire, si on brutalise déjà les hommes de droit, ceux-là qui sont censés dire le droit, défendre les plus faibles, combien de fois les plus faibles? Donc, c'était un peu ça. Je voulais généraliser en réalité.
Merci beaucoup, mon frère. Et Brother Piqué, you just heard of Naloba's experience from the illegal extradition from Nigeria to the condition of, being put in prison without a specific charge for a long period of time, and then with the kangaroo trial that went on. what is your take on the way the Nera 10 were treated?
Comrade, this is quite a wonderful question, and it's also a very complex, as a simple issue in a complex environment. You said before when you introduced yourself, you talked about, first of all, how our states were created. You see, we're now talking about the effects. We're not talking about the causes. How the states were created. You said it yourself. Some people came from somewhere through invasion. They went to the stage of conquest. From the stage of conquest, they went to the stage of colonization. And then from colonization, they went to a pseudo-independence, which became a new colonization. You see what I mean? And now the consequences of the new colonization has caused immigration. So it's not normal that in the modern world where all the nations are struggling to put their acts together, it's actually a systemic problem in the whole of Africa. The youth are running away, and it doesn't really matter at all to the people who run the system. There is actually a disaster in the near future that our society, our intelligentsia don't actually preoccupy itself with.
Sure.
A good example is like what you just said today, for example, what Comrade Max just said, that Cameroon itself is not a normal country. I mean, the people of the law who actually went out in all civil manners and demonstrated, made a point clear. They were molested at the end of the day like common criminals. So if such people who understand how to interpret the law by the lawmakers can be molested like that, what is the position of the vulnerable population in Africa? That is a very big problem. That's the embarrassment. And we saw it again. We saw it again, even when, for example, Maurice Kamto came up and won the elections, and everyone knows it was actually cheated. They still beat up people who were in their, civil motives. They were out there to actually, decry what had happened. The same treatment was given to them. So, but then they are quick, as Comrade Mark said again, to actually refer to those people as the terrorists. So the question now is, we got terrorists and we got the state terrorism that has been introduced since the genesis of the creation of the new colonial state, which I call the plantation estate, because we don't have states. I mean, you can say Germany is a nation state, Italy is a nation state. Africa, there's no nation state in Africa. They are plantation estates because that was the essence of their construct in the first place. Cameroon was nothing but a banana outpost which was selling bananas from CDC and became Cameroon out of consequences of the First World War. It was a German farm. All those countries in Africa were actually European assets. And it's because of the strain of the First World War that they had to carve out something. I said, okay, good, let's call it something different. And then the Second World War came again, made another strain, and then they realized that they were all bankrupt, so they had to actually do something, create new structures, and call them states, which are not states. So we are actually, just overseers of somebody's plantation. Paul Biya is not a president. He's actually an overseer of a plantation. Because as we heard before, even the ambassador of France in Cameroon actually has more power than Paul Biya in his own country. And we know this. So Marx actually summarized everything. It's not a normal country. It's a country that lives on chaos. And that tells us exactly the challenges that we have in the future, that a lot of things are going to happen. We have the push and pull factors that are making youngsters who are well educated to leave this country, to go out looking for greener pastures, which is also difficult, and they're hoping that some of these people are going to come back. No, they might not come back because they also have challenges in those new countries where they want to establish themselves. You see, so we have a society which actually doesn't look 10 years into the future. What matters to them is now and now. We can see, for example, from the profile of these octogenarians who run the system. Biya himself is 90 years old. Most of the top guys are from 80 to 90 years old. And you still got people anticipating that Paul Biya has to run again in 2025. It tells you where the state is. There's something wrong somewhere. You see, and what is going to happen is being programmed to a terrible conflict. The system is being programmed to a terrible conflict, but nobody seems to say that, because when you say it, you're a terrorist, it will lock you up. You see, but when it happens, it happens. In the days of Mobutu Sese Seko, nobody thought it was going to happen like that. Till today, since Mobutu left Congo, they haven't had a day of peace. People have grown up from childhood to adulthood without a day of peace, especially in the east of the Congos. They should expect that Cameroon has been programmed in the future to be like that. We can see the outfall. What is going on now? Kidnappings left and right. Nobody knows who's who. You see, just yesterday, 6 lecturers from the University of Buea were abducted or kidnapped. One of them happens to be my classmate. He teaches in the computer science department. You see, and we don't even know who did it. Well, I mean, thieves and bandits have got into the revolutionary ride, and they're using the opportunity of the vacuum of security. And who knows if it's even pro-government forces or pro-amber forces who have gone rogue. It's a very complex situation. And we don't have the capacity to handle such a situation alone. Because, first of all, we're a system which is at the brink of bankruptcy. Nobody cares. What matters is elections. And Bia and his whatever cronies, they have carved it in such a way that they dominate in just every dimension, every level. What I see is a conflict being programmed, and it's going to happen. There's going to be a point of collision. The problem is, how do you think? How do all the other activists and all these people looking at the future, how can they actually deviate this collision? How can they help the process that it doesn't get to that level? Because these are people who have lived in all their lives in such a fantasy that they can't see themselves losing power. If it comes, I mean, if push comes to show, what they're gonna do is like they're gonna destroy the system, go down the system, like than giving it up for other people to do it better. That's the basic mentality that is with such losers, because they themselves now they have to preoccupy and reoccupy all the places with maybe their progeny, so that actually they can have a safe passage. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for that brilliant illustration. I mean, I think you've touched basically on everything, which I deliberately wanted to ask Madame Nalovabi. Before I get to you, Madame Nalovabi, I saw Madame Michelle Baristandoki online. I don't know if she can hear me. I wanted to introduce her real quick before I get to you. I don't know if Madame Doki, can you hear me? Well, while she's getting herself ready, Barrister Nalova, let me turn back to you. In your previous intervention, you talked about our brothers who started by, calling out the abuse and the state of just destruction of the fabric of the state that we tried to create in 1961. And they were molested in, you guys were molested in Boya. I remember you and Barrister Bobga and all these guys. You guys are lawyers. You guys are supposed to be the ones to uphold the law. So if lawyers are tortured and they have to leave their own jurisdiction and run and hide, and again, the same system that abused them crosses international boundaries with the help of international sovereign countries like Nigeria, pick them up and drag them back into that same dungeon. How do you appreciate this? How can you tell us what is your look on the general condition of human rights in Cameroon as we speak?
Like Mark said, Cameroon is not really a country, Cameroon has no rule of law, none at all. And what baffles me is how much so many people don't realize that, we were not only molested, because, sometimes when you say you molested somebody, it's like holding the person's hand and it was more like public torture they were giving the lawyers. Don't forget that some lawyers were shot. You remember in Boya, lawyers were shot. In Bamenda with tear gas. I can remember, if not for Barrister Bobala, I don't think I would have been alive. There was this tear gas at the Commercial Avenue that I didn't even, like it comes and then goes everywhere. And because I was not used to and had never been in any situation where there was tear gas or, I was about to give up when Vice Bobala carried me like a child. He was the one that noticed it. And the tear gas did not only come on its own, it came with bullets.
Wow.
Yeah. So Cameroon lacks rule of law in general. They have no law that governs anything except for those people that want specific law to govern them. But for the population, people like us, the layman, we have no laws to protect us. As lawyers, I don't think the government of Cameroon considers anyone a lawyer. If I can remember very well, when the strike started, we went on, our leaders said we're going to extend the strike. And then the Minister of Justice, if I'm not mistaken, it was Laurent Esso. I don't know if he's still the minister. And he came out and said we were all scammers. Oh, yeah. That we had taken money from our clients and now we are refusing to go to work. yeah, that was what he said. And as a minister of justice, which for some reason I thought he was also a lawyer, because I know a ministerial position is a political one most of the time, but there are some positions that you need to give to people who understand what it is they are holding. Lawyers are like the backbone of every nation. If you look at Nigeria, although Nigeria also is one crazy nation, but the way lawyers are respected in Nigeria, believe me, you cannot even compare that to the way lawyers are treated in Cameroon. I went to the law school in Nigeria, and I know what it means to say you are a lawyer. I know what it means in Nigeria when a lawyer walks into a police station. But in Cameroon, I know what it means for a lawyer to walk into a police station. If you are not careful, you might just be arrested along with your client.
That's terrible.
Yeah, that's how bad it is. And I think it's time because if you look at it, first of all, Cameroon, these 10 men in jail are not just men. Let's forget about the struggle and every other thing. These are not just men that walk on the streets. These are people that could change a whole government, a whole country. These are intelligent people. Someone like Professor Awasom, I cannot tell you how many awards he has won. Medical awards. In Nigeria, he was respected amongst his colleagues. It's not somebody that you put in jail for 6 years. No, you don't do that. You look at the thing he didn't do, which you said he did, and you look at the benefits that he might give to your people. Somebody like Dr. Fidelis Ndeche, he is this IT genius that, believe me, I have not met another one like him. I haven't. But he's in jail. So do you really think that any country with laws and, and all of that, do you think they can do something like that? No, they can't.
Yeah.
And don't forget also that we were arrested in Nigeria without any arrest warrant. We were not told why we were arrested. And I'm sure until they got to Cameroon, that's why they knew why they were there. We were not told why we were arrested. We were just bundled up like stray dogs and locked up. Nobody does that. And we were not armed. And the thing is, we were outside by the lakeside. You see, so it's like you cannot say we were fighting and then we were arrested in the fight. Now that's different. You don't meet a group of people eating, drinking, and then you arrest them without a warrant. Even knives. Even the food we were eating, there were no knives involved. So how do you arrest people like that without arrest warrant, without anything? And that what even makes it more interesting is when this other, the 10 people were taken to Cameroon, 2 of us were informed that we were going home. You see, Nigerians have this home. When Nigerian tells you that I'm going home, believe me, don't think that they are going to Lagos. They're actually going to their village, you know? So when we left the detention center and we're heading to the airport, when we asked, where are we heading to? They said, we're going home.
Oh.
You know, so we thought in our brains, well, for me, for example, I thought, okay, maybe home meant back to my house. But actually, it was your home because definitely we came from Cameroon, so that was our destination. You know, and the same thing happened when they took the 2 of us from the airport. And when we were going, Dr. Ojo asked the guy, so are you releasing us or what is happening? This guy lied again. He said, oh no, that he wants to go back to where we were detained to pick up some documents, and then he would take us home. And he kept even talking to Dr. Ojo and explaining to Dr. Ojo, oh no, you live in Calabar, right? Dr. Ojo said yes. And he said, oh no, I think it's going to be very late for you to get a flight back to Calabar. So what you can do is, once I pick up these documents, and then you can pass the night in your friend's house. That's my house because I lived in Abuja. You can pass the night at your friend's house, and then you can catch an early morning flight back to Calabar. You know, he was speaking like, actually, that was what he was going to do, but that wasn't what he was going to do. Far from that. When we got there, he told us to come out and wait for him to go in and get whatever document. The moment we came out of the car, that is how they bundled us back into the detention. That was it. It was not until Barrister Falana San, he's a son, senior advocate of Nigeria. He was one of the lawyers that the IG contacted at that time. It was not until from what I gathered, he met the vice president of Nigeria at that time, and in some conference, and he told him that if they don't have me and the other guy released, he was going to make it a big issue, because you cannot just jail people for nothing. So what did they do? With the fear that, if they just release us from this unknown place, it might be, some legal issues and all of that. They took us and then they abandoned us now at the police station. Now at the police station, what is our crime? The police said they don't know what our crime is. They just left us there.
Wow.
Yeah. The police said they don't know anything, that they just told them to lock us up. So that's what they are doing. They're locking us up.
Madam Nalovabi, I'm short of words, but I want to come back to you, Brother Max. You have a situation, right, where lawyers, teachers, they brought up a historic wrong that has been done to their people from 1961. They brought up a constitutional violation of the first constitution drafted, which is the only legal constitution we should have. And they stated clearly that, hey, listen, Article 47 of that constitution said the form of state should never be changed.
Yes.
Okay? These lawyers are intellectual people, right? They brought that to the state, and they were tortured and beaten, and they escaped to Nigeria. But they were arrested again in Nigeria, brought back, and locked up. You know, today, you hear them talking about envoy dialogue. Okay? And the war is going on. People are dying on both sides. What do you think can happen in a state where those who want to dialogue are sent to prison, and then those who want to manifest or protest are killed? What do you think is the fate of that territory?
On n'a plus rien à attendre du régime actuel. Ils ne veulent pas de dialogue. Pour la simple raison que, déjà, la guerre qui se passe là actuellement les enrichit. C'est une évidence. Donc, ils n'ont pas besoin, ils ne veulent pas le dialogue. Tant qu'il y a la guerre, ils vont s'enrichir. Ils ont annoncé dernièrement qu'ils dépensaient à peu près 10 milliards de francs CFA chaque mois pour la guerre sur notre propre territoire. 10 milliards de francs CFA. Donc, vous comprenez bien qu'il y en a qui se remplissent les poches. D'ailleurs, j'ai dénoncé récemment qu'il y a un trafic de munitions à grande échelle qui se passe toujours là-bas et sous couvert de cette guerre. Donc, ils ne veulent pas dialoguer. C'est juste des propos pour essayer d'attirer la sympathie de la communauté internationale. Ça, c'est un fait. Et pour que notre pays revienne dans la paix, il faut que ce régime parte. C'est automatique. Il n'y a rien d'autre à faire. Maintenant, effectivement, historiquement, les avocats avaient raison. Parce que l'histoire est là. On ne peut pas tromper les gens quand l'histoire est là. Elle est écrite. Déjà, le Cameroun, même d'abord, c'est un fake country. Pourquoi? Je m'explique. En 1984, quand Biya prend le pays, il prend un pays où c'est mentionné République unie du Cameroun. Et unilatéralement, toujours en violation de la Constitution, il change le nom du Cameroun, qui redevient la République du Cameroun, qui avait proclamé son indépendance le 1er janvier 1960 et qui ne comptait que 425 000 km². Donc, en 1984, Biya a acté l'assimilation, si on peut appeler ça comme ça, du Southern Cameroun. Ça, c'était, donc, à partir de là, tout est faux au Cameroun. C'est pour ça que je dis que nous ne sommes pas dans un pays normal. Nalova, elle a pris un exemple sur elle. Je vais vous prendre un autre exemple pour comprendre jusqu'à quel niveau est-ce que ces gens sont capables d'arriver. Un professeur émérite de droit, comme Maurice Kamto, dans son propre pays, qui est persona non grata dans une ville de son propre pays. C'est-à-dire, Maurice Kamto arrive à Douala pour ses trucs privés, quoi. Il devait signer des livres et consorts. Il est séquestré dans son hôtel pendant 2 jours, ensuite renvoyé à Yaoundé manu militari, où on le séquestre dans son domicile. Quel pays fait ça? Quel dirigeant de quel pays fait ça? Ces gens n'ont pas de cœur. Ils arrêtent les enfants des gens, ils arrêtent les parents des gens, ils les enferment avant de les notifier la raison pour laquelle ils les ont enfermés. Et quand on dit même qu'il y a procès, le procès se passe au pour des civils, on ouvre des procès au niveau du tribunal militaire. Comment est-ce qu'on peut juger des civils au niveau du tribunal militaire? Ce n'est pas un pays normal. Et même quand on dit jugement là, c'est renvoi sur renvoi. Renvoi sur renvoi. On renvoie les procès pendant 2 ans pour vous condamner à 7 ans de prison pour avoir eu l'intention de manifester. Imaginez, Olivier Bibou-Nissa, il est enfermé et il a écopé de 7 ans de prison pour avoir eu l'intention de manifester. Vous voyez pas à quel niveau ces gens sont capables d'arriver. Donc, je reviens encore sur mes propos en disant, quand un pays déjà ne respecte pas les hommes de droit, ça veut dire qu'il n'y a pas de droit dans ce pays-là. Et de surcroît, les enseignants, ceux qui donnent le savoir, qui transmettent le savoir, ne sont pas respectés, ne sont pas intégrés dans la fonction, ne sont pas payés pendant des années pour certains. Qu'est-ce qu'on peut bien attendre de ces gens-là? On ne peut rien attendre d'eux, ils sont tous fake. C'est-à-dire, les annonces pour le dialogue, c'est fake. Paul Biya, dans son discours en 2023, c'est le dernier discours, il n'a pas arrêté de traiter les Amba Boys de terroristes pour après leur demander de déposer les armes et revenir dans les maisons, ils appellent ça comment là? Ils ont appelé ça comment? De réinsertion sociale et consorts là. Mais c'est un fake. Parce que si ces gars le font, ils seront éliminés les uns après les autres. Donc tout est fake dans ce pays-là en réalité. On ne peut rien attendre de ce gouvernement. Rien du tout.
Well, thank you very much, Comrade Max. Brother PK, I think you've heard Max clearly. The concept of Cameroon even is a fake concept. The concept of law, the rule of law, doesn't exist. The concept of arrestation, to arrest somebody by law enforcement, doesn't exist. Because to arrest somebody, you need to present a warrant of arrest, or if there's a flagrant délit, When you arrest them, you give them the chance to notify their family and follow the rule of law. Okay, now we are found in a situation where the rule of law doesn't exist. The concept of statehood is fundamentally flawed. It doesn't respect the rule of law. How can we now talk about human rights in a context where rights are not respected? How do you explain? How do we come out of such impasse in your point of view?
Yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. Comrade Marx actually summarized everything that si tu ne respectes pas les hommes des droits, tu ne peux pas respecter les droits des hommes. It's a cyclic summary. You see, if you cannot respect the men of law, you won't be able to respect human rights, because the system is run by a decree, by somebody who can die at any minute and plunge the whole society into an eternal civil strife, which is what I'm afraid of. We see it every day. He just said something. Professor Kamto, who everybody knows exactly his own efforts, was actually quarantined in Douala. he could not do anything. So it just tells you that they know exactly how they are playing their games, because they have their clients who are in the foreign countries, who give them aid and give them financial help and everything. So that's what really matters to them. Get more money, and pretend you're actually investing to keep terrorism at bay, and then using like Islamic terrorism in the north, which actually most of the arms are going now to southern Cameroon and Bazonia. Everybody knows that one very well. And even Dr. Diodone Isumba, who said it, that it's a problem which cannot be solved the way the regime in Yaoundé thinks he can solve it. It's a problem which is deep in the society. If people are not talking today, it's not because they still don't have it as grievances. It's because they're afraid. You see, the evolution of a state is always like that. There comes a time when the high-handedness of the state actually dominates everybody. But the moment the state appears to be like an old lion, because we have a system where everything actually comes from beer. Everything comes from beer. Everybody below beer is all in suspicion. Everyone is suspecting the other one. You see what I mean? And we read these things every day from Mebengo, from Gongo, and all those guys. It tells you that it's a very unstable system. That when the person who holds all the strings, he disappears from the podium, from the stage, then that's when we're going to face a real challenge. These questions that Max was saying, they're going to come up one after the other. And a lot of those people who are on top today, you will see them will run out of Cameroon, because they know exactly that the tiger has turned around. You see, so it's a very difficult situation, because they keep it because they have the arms, they have the monopoly of violence. The same thing again, Dr. Esomba said. They are there parce qu'ils sont plus forts que vous. Autant qu'ils ont les armes plus que vous, vous ne pouvez pas parler. Toutes les autres choses là, c'est niente. You see, so it actually pushes the people on the wall, and the only way that actually comes out is through civil strife. That is where Bia and his junta have actually pushed the whole of that society. And when it happens like that, people fall back to what you call ethnocentric democracy. People start to look at their own ethnicity. Okay, good. I think it's better I become I take care maybe of the Bamile case, or I take care of the these. That's what it pushes, when a few actually have been running the system for so long and it decays, and they are all in denial. People have adapted to injustices. So it comes to a level where it's like people are just waiting for that D-Day, that something is going to happen. Let them actually release all that negative energy that has been stored all over. So what I'm just trying to say is, we have a hard time. We have a very complex time in the next 2, 3, 4 years. Cameroon is not going to be actually a simple society, a simple country. It's going to have a lot of things. We are learning also from what happened in the Sahel. The emancipation in the Sahel has made a lot of people from the Central African region also be thinking. You see, because the world is in a very bad stage right now. We have the problem in the Russia versus Ukraine, and then the one in the Middle East, Iran. Yesterday, 80 people died because of a bomb blast. All these things are coming all at once. So our own society is being forgotten, and because we are so weak, and that is actually an advantage to the dictatorial structure of BIA, because the more the world really gets out on the side, the better for them. They can do their things. You see, all eyes are deflected from our society. So we are in a very bad situation that even those who call themselves intellectuals are afraid to talk, just because it's like they say you can't feed the finger, or you can't bite the finger that feeds you. So most of the time, people always write to you in the social media, oh, you make so much noise, why not come to Cameroon and change it? Of course, we cannot come to Cameroon and change it, because when you're in Cameroon, you're in the lion's den. Nothing works, only for them. So now that we are out, is the only advantage you have to talk. I mean, we're not the first. Cameroonians are not the first to talk against their system being out of the system, because when you're in the system, you cannot talk, because the problem is not even BIA itself. The ones who actually think they have their positions in the system, they're the ones who confront you out here and say, if you want to talk, come back home and change it. You see, so we have a big problem, a really big problem, which is going to take a long time to solve it, because we have a lot of rascals in positions who actually are capitalizing, as Mark said again, on this chaos. The war is enriching a lot of them. It's their fortune wheel, and they don't see why it should stop. You see, because they use that chaos to amass a lot of wealth. You see, even on the amber side, it's happening. We see that also. And so we are all caught in the middle. Those who want justice, those who want peace are caught in the middle, because ruffians and rascals and bandits have actually taken over. That is the biggest problem. But then what we do, we always have to mobilize more and more and more of the civil population, because they are, at the end of the day, ultimately, is a civil population that still has the power. They just have to understand that they have to be on the same block. That's it. You see, there's always a revolution in a revolution, a re-revolution in a revolution. It always comes after it has risen to a level and it drops again. It's like a bubble. It blows up sometime when the internal pressure is too much for the bubble membrane itself to keep it together. So what's happening in Cameroon today, Ambazonian included, it's a bubble which is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you know what? There's a point where it's going to blow off. Now the question is when? Where are you going to be that time? And they don't want to see, they don't want to accept that fact. They don't want to accept that it's a bubble which is getting bigger. The bubble will never grow eternally. It will burst somewhere, sometime. And that is where even those who actually live in denial, they're going to say, oh, if we knew. I don't really see how we're going to go out of this thing. I don't see it. I mean, I'm a very pragmatic person, very positive person, but I tell you, there's a dilemma. I don't know how it's going to go, because it's a real rough scenario out there. So really, I don't have any straight answer to you, but to educate and mobilize the civil society. That's what matters most.
Wow, thank you, Comrade PK. I think your contribution has now put me out of words, because I was about to ask Mr. Nalowabi that if the lawyers have tried their best and they failed, the civil society have been exiled and ambushed and put in dungeons, the young men have decided to pick up arms in the former Southern Cameroons, right? And the intellectuals, let's say the active population, are all being sent out on exile. You now find our people in Canada, everywhere in Europe, Iceland, anywhere a flight ticket can go, everybody's exiting. We have our people going down to South America, going through the jungle, those going over the Atlantic Ocean, the Mediterranean Sea to get to Europe. With this movement, we have the rights, the human rights of our people being abused at home and outside. Okay, you see what happened to our people in Libya, what happens to them in Europe. So the fate of the black man, the fate of the black woman, the fate of the black child has been reduced to what they call state of nature. You know, is it by Hobbes? who talked about the state of nature where everywhere is chaos. So
Thomas Hobbes, yeah.
Thomas Hobbes. So how do you, as a mother, as an activist, a human rights activist, how can you talk about human rights in a context where there is no human rights for the Black man, and especially for those from our territory? How do you reconcile those two, contradictory positions?
Thank you very much. Let's go back to Cameroon. Okay. You see, it's true that people are running. There's mass exodus from Cameroon right now. You see, the problem now is it doesn't matter whether you are an Amazonian or you are French Cameroonian. They are all moving out. Where I live currently, majority of those here are French-speaking Cameroonians. And it will shock you that they all have the same story. They are talking about the crisis in Amazonia. But actually, they are running away from their dilapidated system. Okay? We can never be more, those of us in the diaspora can never be more than those on the ground. You know? And I think we just need to work a little bit harder to have those on the ground do the job. The truth is, those from the diaspora can only educate those on the ground, okay? They can provide assistance to those on the ground, but the job can only be done by someone who is on the ground, the real job itself. That's why I always say, even to my friends, when they say, oh, you don't want to cook, you don't want to, I'm like, okay, no, let's do this. You who brings the money doesn't need to do the job. You will have to do the job. It's okay. You don't need to bring money. So we have to share, you know. And the French activists, I think they have been doing their best, but you would also understand that before now, French Cameroonians had this spirit of entitlement, you know. Minus the struggle, I studied at the University of Yaoundé too in Soa, and I also studied at the Catholic University in Yaoundé, and I know lots of Francophones have this entitlement to something I have no idea about. And so even when their activists are talking to them, especially the activists from abroad, some of them begin to think that, oh, these ones, they don't know what they're talking about. You know, they are supporting the Anglophones. Believe me, I read some comments under Max's post when he posted this flyer, and I know what some of them were saying. Okay? But right now, what we need to do is to keep trying. It might take 10 years, but the French activists, they need to keep trying to convince their citizens to change their government. Just as the Amazonian activists need to keep trying, like we are doing now. Okay? And I'm also one of those people who is of the opinion that maybe at some point, just maybe at some point, we need to get off social media and get to the ground. I don't know how we have to do that, but we need to figure it out, how to get to the ground. Because, for example, in Amazonia right now, you can't call a protest and you would see 200 people, you know, like before, like in 2016 or 2017. That is because the government has instilled a lot of fear into the people. And because they see us only like how they're seeing us now on the screens, it doesn't still give them the courage. And the government has given them the impression that we are sending them to be killed, okay, while we stay abroad. Maybe at some point, if all of us have to come out like what happened in Togo a couple of years back, if all of us have to say, okay, we are coming back home, it's true that they are going to arrest a lot of people, but then maybe we'll just get what is it that we want. Okay, a lot of people, I know arrest is something that a lot of people are scared of. I'm scared also of arrest, but I also think that if you're a freedom fighter, it should be one of the things that should be on your list. You should live a life where, I learned that the hard way. You should live a life where if tomorrow you are uprooted, it doesn't matter where you are, whether you are in Germany, America, you can never tell. If you are uprooted tomorrow, you should be able to say, I have arranged my businesses, my family, they know how to take care of themselves. But you cannot be a freedom fighter and you keep saying that, oh, I don't want to be arrested. Then you are not yet ready. You are not ready.
Comrade Nalobabi, you said something very intriguing which made me to smile. Again, you're talking about us going back home and standing for our core values. Now, this is the question I really want to ask you with all sincerity, okay? We had lawyers who came out and they said, hey, you guys are violating the laws. They show the articles. They show they show the Constitution. These lawyers were beaten and bullets were hauled at them from all over the place, okay? And then these same activists and some of them, they ran to Nigeria, right? The Cameroon government connived with the Nigerian government, went to Nigeria, kidnapped them. That is not arrestation, because with arrest, they serve you a warrant and, and they brought them back and they threw them in jail. The Human Rights Report, the Human Rights Commission made a report detailing that there was abuse of their rights. They should be released. Cameroon government takes the paper, tear it into pieces, and puts it in the trash. Now, when you say, let's go back, right, and fight, and what should we go back and do? Should we go back, pick up arms? Should we go back and protest again and be shot at? Should we go back and, I don't know. When you ask us to go back, what exactly are you asking us to go back and do? Should we go and protest? I don't know.
Comrade Liman, I understand your concern, but you would agree with me that in the 2011 or so, or 2010, 2011, lots of African governments came down without weapons. If you would agree with me, protests have shown to have so much power than the weapons. You see, the weapons have an after effect, but the protest, once they achieve what it is that they want, everything goes back to everyday life. Now, if we went out on protest, like I said, many of us will be killed, some will be imprisoned, but that is the cause of liberation. That's it. That's something I'm still saying, that if we want to be freedom fighters, we need to be freedom fighters, okay? If we go out 1 million of us, right? Believe me or not, the death toll might be 200, 300. Many of us will be arrested and all of that. But the truth is, there is absolutely no way that 1 million people gathered in one place will not take down the regime. There is absolutely no way. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah, it happened in so many countries before.
Wait, let me interrupt you there. You talk about it happening in countries. In the beginning, Comrade Marx said something very brilliant. Cameroon is not a country, okay? That has rules where you can go and protest and the police will be there to guide you. Now, with this at the back of your mind, are you telling me that knowing that going back there, I will be killed, my child will be homeless, my wife will be frustrated, I ran away because I knew I would be killed, right? If I say anything. So are you asking me to trust the process, the international community, right? No. The same system, or you're asking me to trust La Republique that if I go back this time around and I do the same protest, which I did, and many were killed, somehow by miracle, La Republique is going to change its mind. And I know, again, we are talking about La Republique to Cameroon. It's not a country, okay? You are telling me that I should trust that somehow they're going to change. Is that what you're telling us?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when protests happen in many African countries, it means that the government is not a government. That is the only reason why you would see a massive protest of that nature, when people don't believe in a government. Now, I have never seen a protest in Africa where the police are guiding the civilians. No, the police are always the enemy to the civilians, and Cameroon is no exception. Okay, but the truth is, like I said, the truth is, if you leave Europe and go back to Cameroon and you're shot and you're killed, people already been killed on the ground. And don't forget that after this crisis, even those that have been killed their families might not get any form of recognition.
So,
okay,
what I'm saying is, the death toll.
What I'm saying is, we could go gradually, or we
Okay.
could button our shirts up and trousers and say, okay, we want to do this, and we know the cost is going to be high. Like I heard Comrade PK saying once about the GCE board. I don't know anything about the GCE, but I think I was much more younger at that time. And I heard him talking about it once. How many people were killed because of the GCE board? Basically, it shows that everything that we've always wanted, people need to be killed. That's how La Republique has programmed us. Now, if we think that we want to liberate ourselves from Cameroon, then we need to be sure that there's going to be some level of sacrifice. It doesn't really matter if it's going to be you, me, whoever, but we have to do that, because if you are afraid sitting in the diaspora, and that's like, it comes back to what I was saying, that the people on the ground now are thinking that we are sitting here comfortably and sending them to die. You know, it's just the same thing that you are now saying, that, oh, you go there now and then we die. They are already dying. So there is no point for us joining them and dying together. Because statistics have shown that we give money, the killings continue. Okay? We don't give, it keeps going. So why don't we do the one reasonable thing that will end this thing once and for all? Even if they remove the military from Yaoundé, Douala, and they send all to come and kill civilians in Bamenda, they cannot kill everybody.
Wow.
They can't. And you see, the problem is the way the internet is in 2024, it's not the same way we had this internet in 2016. Believe me, if 2016 is sent now to 2024, this struggle will be over. Because now more people are on the internet. More people have phones, you know, more people know what they want and what they have to do. Unlike in 2016, we just, you know, with the anger and everything, we were just going, and, you know, it's a lot more different now. But for us to say we don't want to be killed while people are on the ground already dying, I really don't think it's, to an extent, it's fair, you know. Well, that's my opinion anyway. I don't think.
I share your opinion that arms won't solve the problem, but
but believe me, one thing I know for sure is that if we are going to protest, or if anybody is going out to protest, the government is not your friend, okay? You cannot be protesting against an African regime and you're expecting the government to come and protect you. No, it doesn't work. And I think that every African country knows that once you go out and say, the government should step down, you already know that the bullets will start to fly. That's for sure.
Wow. I mean, thank you very much for that intervention there. Comrade Max, you have been at the forefront. You lived in Cameroon like all of us who grew up and like children. I know I have a different nationality because I'm not a Cameroonian. I've never been one by law. But Naloba said something that they're going to keep abusing the rights of people. They're going to keep torturing people, doing arbitrary arrest. Now, with us knowing that there is no legal way for us to talk about respecting the rights of humans, because they don't consider us humans. We are subjects, right, in the plantation. What is your take? What should the state of the human rights, what should the civilians who want their rights to life, liberty, and prosperity, what do they have next? If they cannot use the law, if they cannot protest, what is left for them to do?
On ne peut pas se contenter d'être des survivants dans son propre pays. À un moment donné, il va falloir dire non, ça suffit, stop. Comme Barista Nalova disait tout à l'heure, même si tu sais que tu vas affronter peut-être la mort, mais il faut déjà être capable de dire stop, ça suffit, il y en aura le bol. Et ça s'est passé dans beaucoup d'endroits. Et ce n'est que l'option envisageable au Cameroun actuellement par rapport au contexte actuel. Donc, il n'y a pas d'autre option, il n'y a pas de demi-mesure pour qu'on sorte de ce brouhaha. Je préfère ne pas utiliser des gros mots. Le régime actuel est un régime dictatorial sanguinaire. Tout le monde le sait. Et les Camerounais de tous bords subissent depuis déjà bien longtemps. Et comme notre panéliste PK dit tout à l'heure, c'est comme une bulle qui ne fait que gonfler. À un moment donné, ça va exploser. Il faut que les Camerounais se rendent à l'évidence que les Ambazoniens ne sont pas leurs ennemis, parce que les Ambazoniens se battent pour un droit fondamental. Les Ambazoniens ne sont pas leurs ennemis. Et si il y a ce qui se passe en Ambazonie aujourd'hui, c'est à cause de l'échec du gouvernement qui est en place. Alors, on ne doit pas regarder les problèmes sur la forme, mais on doit regarder dans le fond. Ça veut dire quoi? S'il y a la guerre en Ambazonie, le gouvernement qui est responsable de cette guerre refuse de mettre un terme à cette guerre. Qu'est-ce que la majorité du peuple camerounais doit faire? Eh bien, c'est de descendre ce gouvernement, tout simplement. Avec des protestations, aucun gouvernement au monde ne peut ouvrir le feu et tuer toute sa population. C'est impossible. C'est-à-dire qu'au Cameroun, nous sommes environ 30 millions d'habitants. Il suffit que 1 million de Camerounais se retrouvent dans les rues, simultanément dans les 10 régions du Cameroun, c'est-à-dire 100 000 Camerounais par région, seulement dans les capitales. Ce régime n'a pas 2 jours, il tombe. Ça s'est passé avec Omar El-Béchir, qui était un dictateur plus sanguinaire que Paul Biya. Il a fallu la détermination du peuple soudanais, je crois. Il a fallu la détermination du peuple pour que le gars se rende à l'évidence qu'en réalité, il n'était rien qu'un humain, Omar El-Béchir, parce qu'il se prenait pour un dieu. Tu vois? Donc, il faudrait qu'on éduque la population dans ce sens-là. Et les divisions aujourd'hui ne vont pas nous aider. Nous devons nous mettre ensemble pour mener à bien cette lutte. C'est quelque chose de très important. Et je dirais aussi que la diaspora ne pourra jamais aller sur le terrain pour combattre. Pourquoi? Pour une simple raison, le gouvernement ne nous laissera même pas arriver. Nous sommes dans un contexte international, c'est-à-dire que pour que je quitte d'ici pour aller au Cameroun, il faut que je passe des frontières. Et il faut toute une organisation pour qu'on quitte tous ensemble. Il faudrait l'acceptation du gouvernement camerounais qu'on vienne, n'est-ce pas, sur le territoire. Donc, ils sont capables de voir que, bon, non, on refuse, ils ne viennent pas et on ne viendra pas. Donc, ils ont les manettes. Par contre, si les Camerounais qui sont au Cameroun sont assez éduqués et que la bulle explose, que les Camerounais se retrouvent dans les rues 10, 20, 30, 100, 1000, 10 000, 100 000, nous ici, nous devons nous mettre ensemble pour aller au Cameroun. Mais pas le Cameroun qui se trouve en Afrique. Le Cameroun qui se trouve ici sur place. Nos ambassades. Nous sommes des millions d'expatriés camerounais en diaspora actuellement. Imaginez un seul instant qu'en Europe, aux États-Unis, partout, qu'on envahisse toutes les ambassades qui ne fonctionnent plus pendant que les Camerounais qui sont au Cameroun sont également en train de manifester. Vous savez ce que ça va créer comme boom médiatique et consorts? Ils ne pourront plus se cacher. Donc ça, c'est la façon que nous pouvons adopter pour aider le moment venu. Mais actuellement, tout ce qu'on a fait, c'est faire comme on est en train de faire là, essayer de sensibiliser, leur faire comprendre que nous avons un ennemi commun, parce que le régime bien n'est pas un adversaire. Moi, je dis c'est des ennemis. Et on doit les combattre par tous les moyens possibles. Mais pour ça, on doit être unis contre eux, parce que c'est eux contre nous. Le même traitement, n'est-ce pas, qu'ils affligent à nos frères ambazoniens, c'est le même traitement qui nous afflige. Vous avez vu Martinez-Ogo, par exemple. Je vous prends une petite anecdote. Samuel Vondoayolo, aujourd'hui, était bien, pendant la cérémonie de prestation de vœux au palais des Toudis, il était bien à côté de Paul Biya, à la droite de Paul Biya. Pourtant, Samuel Vondoayolo, aujourd'hui, est accusé de human rights abuse, extrêmement grave, parce qu'il a fait kidnapper des citoyens camerounais qui travaillaient chez lui, leur famille, il les a fait torturer à la CEMIL. C'est-à-dire torturer avec l'électricité, on les a brûlés, il leur a fait subir des trucs vraiment atroces, parce qu'il les accuse d'avoir volé 2 milliards de francs CFA dans son domicile. Au Cameroun, pays pauvre et très endetté. C'est-à-dire le pays leur appartient. Et nous ne sommes que des sujets, comme on disait ici là tout à l'heure. Donc imaginez à quel niveau ils peuvent arriver. Et il est là, tranquille, il n'a pas de problème. J'ai un truc ici de l'ONG Mandela Center qui a publié, ça ne se voit pas très bien, qui a publié sur cette histoire, sur Mandela International Mandela Center, qui est basé aux États-Unis, qui a publié un rapport sur ce qui s'est passé avec les employés de Samuel Vondoayolo, le directeur du cabinet civil à la présidence de la République. Et cette histoire court depuis déjà presque un mois. C'est l'activiste Paul Chouta qui a révélé cette affaire, qui s'avère vraie au Cameroun. Donc, ça dit que même leurs propres membres de famille, parce que ce gars qui travaille chez lui, c'est un membre de sa famille, il les fait kidnapper et ils utilisent les services de l'État comme la CEMIL, la sécurité militaire, la même sécurité militaire qu'ils ont utilisée pour assassiner Martinez Ogo, la même sécurité militaire qu'ils utilisent pour assassiner les Ambazoniens, la même sécurité militaire qu'ils utilisent pour la répression des opposants politiques. C'est cette même sécurité militaire qu'ils utilisent pour torturer les propres membres de leur famille qui travaillent chez eux. Donc, vous voyez que ces gens sont des criminels. Et comme je dis toujours, c'est nous contre eux. Et il faut qu'on soit ensemble pour y parvenir.
Wow, thank you very much. So what you're basically telling us is Paul Biya has become the new King Louis XV, n'est-ce pas? Après moi.
C'est moi, exactly.
And I think that, Comrade PK, I want you to intervene here. We are here to talk about human rights, arbitrary arrest, and our case study has been the Nera 10 who were abducted because they were not arrested. They were abducted with the help of the Cameroon junta, right? And they were sent back in the Cameroon plane to Cameroon, right? That already is a gross violation of their human rights. It is different if Nigeria arrested them and they were not in a regular situation. Let's say they did not have their documents together and they were deported, right? For, breaking the laws of Nigeria, violating the territorial integrity after a normal hearing. But Nigeria has proven to be like Cameroon. They decided to pick them up, give them to the Cameroon government without any legal hearing, and gave the Cameroon military services the clearance to land their plane on their territory, pick up asylees, right? And simply just take them back to Cameroon. That was kidnapping, right? In a state like that, you have clearly said that Cameroon is a time bomb and it's going to go off. Now, the rights of our people are being violated back at home. Their rights are being violated at the embassy in other countries. So what is the state of the Cameroonian or the Ambazonian who says, I just want my right to be respected. I don't want to pick up arms. I want to follow the law, but there is no law here for me. What is the fate of such a person?
So you have to understand something. First of all, the incident of the Nera 10, it was an accord between the Cameroon security, whatever apparatus, and the Nigerian side of things. They clearly showed us that they don't respect any international law, whatever actually had to protect them as refugees in Nigeria. They just crossed it out and did what they wanted to do. What that tells you? That tells you is strength, is power. You see, diplomacy has a lot of rituals. But these guys, when they want to deal, they go pragmatic and do it. They don't care who actually reminds them of not respecting any human rights or whatever charter from the United Nations. It doesn't matter at all to them. I can give you many cases around the world. When Eichmann was actually kidnapped in Argentina by the Israeli Mossad to take back to Israel, he was the one who was actually in charge of deporting Jews from Austria to the Nazi camps of Birkenau, Auschwitz. Öcalan was caught by the Israelis and sent to Turkey. He's now in the Bosporus prison for the past 20 years. The world shouted and cried. Nobody cared. You have to understand that at that particular level, their economic interest surpasses all the human rights we're talking about, especially when that human is coming from the third world, from the unfavorable part of the world. Take an American and kidnap him and see what America is going to do to you. You see, so we are complaining because we are weak. We are complaining because we are weak. The whole of the world, or what they call, state diplomacy rests actually on bilaterals and multilaterals accord that they make within themselves, partners and this and that and that. We grew up to know about South Africa, how South Africa actually was declared apartheid just a year after the Nuremberg laws in Germany, after the Second World War. Hitler had died. We thought fascism had died with Hitler. No. South Africa was declared an apartheid state just after Hitler had died. And the world watched it. They didn't really care who was dying. The black man. It doesn't really matter. It's happening everywhere in the world today. Palestine, the same problem. You see what I'm saying? So the issue is just that those who have actually told us about the United Nations things, it's actually them that has been protected, not our people. Our people have never been protected by United Nations. Forget it. They've never been protected by United Nations because you have the IMF and all the other guys who have given loans to these governments and they're reaping their profits back from the society. So human rights doesn't really count in Africa. So, and our juntas know this. So that's what they're exploiting. Again, going back to Cameroon, the Biya regime is nothing but an extension of the Ahidjo regime. The Ahidjo regime was nothing but an implant of the De Gaulle system of exploitation. You see, the guys who fought for Cameroon independence, that we grew up to hear their names, we didn't even read them in books because no book actually wrote about them, right? The Umyobes, the NS1Ds, all those guys, we grew up to know that they were terrorists. That's how we got to know them. They call them Maquisards. We grew up to think that these guys were terrorists. That's what the terrorist regime told us about the real freedom fighters. A good example, how come of all those guys who fought the colonialists, none of them has a street that honors his name in Yaoundé, in Douala? But you have Charles de Gaulle, you have this, you have all those French names in Cameroon, for example. We don't have any of those guys who were the real freedom fighters in the 1950s and 60s because they were termed terrorists. By who? By the Ahidjo side of the equation, which actually became the Biya side of the equation. So we are still being actually run by those who collaborated with our colonialists to kill our real freedom fighters. We haven't solved that equation yet, and it's going to come in the future. It's true that people are actually getting more and more information, even seeing the face of new Umyobe, Felix Moume, who was killed right here in Geneva by a French agent, right? And the Swiss had a big diplomatic problem with the French because they killed somebody in their soil. You see, that part of Cameroon has not been solved. That is the problem that the Francophone Cameroon still has to attend to, that problem. Because they have never had the chance to attend to that problem because the person who took power from the French in 1960 is still the one who has the gun. It's still the one who has the gun. The UPC today is actually an empty shell, a crap shell, like as I say. You see what I'm saying? So the machinery is still working. It's still working, which means we have a long way to go. Ambazonia creation and emancipation is nothing but let's say the end of the level of frustration from what had been demanded by this part of the country. If there's anybody in the whole of the Cameroons who actually opted for integration and anything, it was the Anglophone Cameroon. It was the Anglophone Cameroon. But what did the Simpsons do? Downtrodden, downtrodden, downtrodden. Today, even the Ambazonians that we, for example, try to support the ideology, some of them are out of hand because the bitterness is so much so that the people who actually were arrested in the Nera 10 incident, I mean, they look like kindergarten today. You see, because what did the regime think? Oh, if we arrest them, lock them up, the struggle is going to die. That was a big mistake they made. Because those who actually were in the Nera 10 thing, they're actually the moderates that you can even talk to. The dangerous guys are still out there and they're multiplying. We in the diaspora, as Nalova was suggesting, to go back and mass, it can never happen. Comrade Mark said it. It will never happen. There's a projection. There's a projection. The kids who have been born here will never have the Cameroon feeling. But those who are born in Cameroon will have the Cameroon feeling, and their growth is higher than the ones here. So the point is, it's in that same Cameroon, without you going down there, the problem is going to be solved from that part of the continent. What they need is the right education. There's just no stopping a bubbling population, a population that is growing. Why? Because the economic concerns actually plays a big part. The more we have unemployment and the state is dripping down to debt, the more people get frustrated, the more resources become rare, and the more people start to look for options. Forget about those few that cross the Mediterranean or whatever looking for green pastures. If you're in Europe today, you realize that the Europeans are tying up every corner. They don't want immigrants anymore from Asia, from China, from what they call it, from the Arabia, from Africa. They don't want anybody anymore. They're tired themselves because they have seen their own problems. They have economic problems they cannot handle. So the problem is, some of those Africans will never be able to leave Africa. They might leave Cameroon to Central African Republic or Central African Republic to Congo, but they might not leave the continent en masse as people think, which means the pressure in the continent itself per country is going to grow. As I said, there's no quick fix. The problem has to be attended to, or else it's going to burst in its own way. You see, they always think that, oh, no, if you look at the geopolitics today, France itself is getting up to its nose because it's been kicked out left and right. The Russians are trying a way to come in. So it's all this bipolarity, multipolarity, which is making things to change. But Biya and himself, they know very well. I've said it. I made a statement in 1998 in Berlin, Germany, when I was a student, that there will be a tendency at the end of the road of Biya for his son to take over. And today we've seen what's going on in Cameroon. A lot of they're teasing the waters, doing this, oh, Frank Biya, Frankis, and all these things, for example, because they want to maintain, they can't realize, they can't accept that it might change, but it's going to change. People are getting used to more information. Today, we have smartphones. Before we had to listen or read newspapers. Most of these people don't read today. Everybody watches TikTok, or what do I call it, YouTube and all these things. It's what is actually educating the people and getting them to their higher levels of thought. So it caught our regimes by surprise. They could not believe it, that actually this technology was going to make things, expose things. And what people need is exposure. What Africans need in Africa is exposure. You see, what they should not do is to always be thinking that, oh, the white man is the problem. No, the white man is also struggling to solve his own problem. We are here in the European countries. We see how the normal European who is doing his job is also suffering to pay bills. In every society, you have actually those elitism structures. But the point is that, do the people have the basic? Yes, that's what the Europeans struggle to do. Let them just have the basic, because the more the people have the basic, they still have ambition to work harder. But when people don't have anything, like in Africa, you will never, ever stop revolutions. Revolutions don't come because people understand the political system. Revolutions come because people don't have the basics. That's what you know. The moment the economy presses on them and they realize there's no way out. You saw what happened just in Yaoundé and Douala because of the fuel shortage. Those are the things that bring revolution. Those are the things that bring revolution. It's not because of political education. Practicality. They see that they don't have petrol. What are they going to do? What can they do? They can't go here. They can't do this. Then they go wild. You see what I'm saying? So me, I've noticed it is as what they call how one thing leads to another. I'm not really bothered anymore because I know that there's a point of collision in the future and it's coming. Now, the issue is, where are we going to be at that particular time? Because the chaos is going to be very much difficult to contain. And as smart as the regime is, it's going to twist the people in such a way that they will be seen a particular block as their problem, as they tried with the BAS, the Brigade Anti-Sardinar. I'm happy that Max is here. I never knew him. This is the first time I'm talking with him. And you saw that they did something. They went to the embassies and, shock up these embassies, actually made their case in a very short while to be international. Those are the things that we in the diaspora should do. The guys in Cameroon Amazonia, whatever, they have to do their own part. But they will do their own part because they are informed of the right things to do. And secondly, they will come across those forces of order who has been shooting at them, I mean, from time immemorial. It's all a historical evolution. It's a historical process. It will never be changed because Bia didn't want it that way. It's a human evolutionary spirit. It's going to work. It's going to change someday. The question now is when. I see it in 3 to 4 years, no more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade PK. You've raised the point of there is a point of collision. We can't avoid it, given the trajectory we are on. But Comrade Nalowabi, let me come back to you. You have been an advocate for peace, okay? You have been in support of the right to a peaceful solution to the conflicts and the crisis back in the Cameroons. And even within the Amazonian context, you have always been the voice of peace, right? And as a mother, I understand where you come from. But you have people who say you don't speak up forcefully. Even when you guys were kidnapped, I will not use the word arrest because that is not arrest, that is kidnapping. When you guys were kidnapped from Nigeria, you escaped the claws of La République. But since then, you have been very, I will not say quiet, you have been very reserved and you have measured your words. And a lot of words have gone around. Maybe you knew something, you were at the back of, you knew something about the meetings and what caused those people to be arrested or kidnapped in Nigeria. What do you have to tell Ambazonians listening to you today? Like, why have you been quiet? Why has it been so difficult for you to just come out and say, hey, we were picked up because we were in Nigeria having our regular meetings in our normal group activities, and this is what happened? What has been keeping you back from coming out forcefully to state exactly what happened so people have some form of closure?
Thank you, Comrade Lima. That's a difficult question. First, you would have to understand that when you are arrested with your team and then your team goes missing, I would say missing because after the plane, I will be honest with you, I didn't know where they were, you know. I don't know if when they got up into the skies, they were thrown out of the plane. I don't know if they were, I had no idea what happened after they boarded that plane. Okay. And it was not an easy thing for me as a person. Okay. And then, worst of all, don't forget, I'm a single mother who had children now that were looking up to me as well. And I didn't only have the problem with the Nera 10 after I was released. I had medical condition when I was released. I had now my personal problem with the Nigerian government. Okay, I will not go into that, but I'm sure people, those who really cared, knew about what was going on. If you would know that my house was searched, okay, when I was in detention, when I was taken to the police station, there was a search that was ordered for my home. And so I had, apart from being involved with the Southern Cameroon's issue, now Nigeria now was trying to look for a way to please the Cameroon government, you know, because now it's like a Nigerian citizen is involved in acts, you know, against the Cameroonian state. And for Nigeria not to seem to want to get off the hook that easily from whatever agreement they had with Cameroon, they now were trying to look for what could, you know, hold me in their cells as well. Let it be that, okay, we have kept her here also as a Nigerian. She's in jail. So I had my own personal issues that, you know, that was not related to the 10 people that were taken away. And with children and the confusion, I would not want to go into what I went through in detention. Believe me, I don't. It's something that I still see up to today when I go to bed. You know, if I tell you that I hardly get up to 5 hours of sleep a day, you will not believe it. There is no therapy I haven't been through, but Each time I go to bed, there's nothing I don't see being in that detention. The things that were done in the detention, I still see them up to today. When I came out, first, by the time I came out, I was going through the internet. So many versions of what happened were already all over the internet. First. Now you start to ask yourself, if people already believe these things, how do you even start to explain yourself? Okay. And then from the look of things, some of the Ambazonians had singled out the woman, which they think that it's an easy target to get to, because the only way to get to those 10 people in jail is to believe that I knew what happened and they are covering for me, to make sure that they tie them to me by every possible means. Now, you come out of detention, the people that landed you in detention are already saying that you knew why you were arrested. Now you are confused. Okay. So I decided, and then don't forget that I was out in Nigeria on bail. First, I was not asked to go home. Somebody actually bailed me out in Nigeria. Okay. And I had promised as a Nigerian, I was going to stay away from issues that concern Southern Cameroons. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I had
Yeah,
promised them.
yeah.
Now, while I'm trying to secure myself, my children, my daughter was barely a year old when all this was going on. And then Ambazonians were there, conspiracy story to another, one story to another. But then when I finally came to Europe, I had an interview with Mark. I think that went on like 2 or 3 hours. I had an interview with Mark. I tried to explain myself, what happened, how I saw it, but Ambazonians want you to say somebody sold you people out. That is what everyone is waiting to hear, to blame somebody for what happened. But I cannot blame someone when I don't know this person.
True.
Yeah. And I keep telling Ambazonians that maybe they are underestimating the Cameroon government and the Nigerian government. Like Comrade PK just said about the politician who was killed in Switzerland. Okay. And Switzerland is a first world country, for God's sake. What about Nigeria and Cameroon? Nigerians arrest their politicians. Their senators are arrested. Who are we? And Ambazonians fail to understand that majority of those men have been in Nigeria for so long that everybody knew where they worked, where they live, where they stay, they were basically Nigerians. Those men were Nigerians, because if you stay in a country for 20 years, basically you are part of the country. Okay. And so I thought to myself that maybe I just let people go on with their emotions, say whatever they want to say. And the good thing is, every day, I will be honest with you, the only prayer I make every day is that those 10 men in jail should come out alive. Okay? And because they are the only ones that would say, no, this is what happened. Because a lot of Ambazonians seem to show more concern to the 10 people, like as if like these people don't know what happened. It's like the people those in jail are delusional. They don't know what happened. Those outside are the ones who know exactly what went wrong. So I want them to live long and come out as soon as possible, so that they can be able to tell the Ambazonian people, exactly what happened. Okay. And a lot of people have visited them. A lot of Ambazonians have visited them. That's the irony. It's to tell you that as much as we fight for Ambazonians, we should be also ready to protect ourselves and our mental health. Because if we don't do that, a group of people will choose you, and maybe they're afraid that you hold too much power. They're afraid that maybe people get to talk to you better than they talk to them, and then they decide to destroy you. Because a lot of people have spoken to these 10 men in jail. Okay? And I know for sure that they have told them what happened. I will not call their names, but they know themselves, even including Amazonian leaders. They have spoken to these people in jail and they have told them exactly what happened and everything. But then you see their followers consistently saying that, oh, if Siseko does not explain, Siseko who is in jail, Siseko does not explain what happened at the Nera. If I don't come and explain, that's just to tell you that it is either their leaders are lying to them to hold on to the power which they don't even have, or they have just decided to destroy people because they don't like them.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how bad it goes. That sometimes I begin to ask myself why I was uprooted from my home. Believe me or not, if I tell you that I like where I am, you can ask PK, he will tell you. Each time we talk about like PK, I don't know the year that I'm going to get used to with this hell that I am in right now because I don't like this place. But Amazonians don't seem to see that. All they want to do is, oh, come and tell us what happened at the Nera hotel. Why were you people having a meeting? What the question is, the president was in Nigeria. The president has the right to call his cabinet members. It was
let me interject here real quick. I like what you said. The president has the right to call a meeting of his cabinet members. And you were then the secretary, right? If I'm not wrong. And I think I've had some communication with you within that period too, though it wasn't directly, it was mostly by email. As the secretary, you are never told the agenda of the meeting, are you?
No, actually, let me be honest with you. This meeting really had nothing to do with fighting. Like when I say, you know what I mean.
Exactly.
That year we had a very rough patch with the refugees in Calabar, and we had gotten a lot of complaints from Dr. Ojong, who seemed to be, when your doorstep is the first step for people who need help, at some point you become overwhelmed. Okay. Dr. Ojong complained and complained and complained, and so I think Siseko thought it wise that we could strategize on how to handle the situation in Cross River and to see if the other professors there could chip in something to help some people, which Dr. Ojong had said they were pregnant women and they really needed help. Okay. And usually those professors were very instrumental in helping those refugees from their own pocket. They were very instrumental, So, and then it was end of year. It's been normal that even if we want to discuss about refugees, we could dive into one or two things. How is the struggle going? How can we evaluate it? What do you think, can be done in this section? It was basically just an overall thing. And that is why we were not arrested in a conference room, because it was not like a conclave where people have to come all dressed up and, it was just a meeting. We were arrested at the lakeside. Believe me, Barrister Shufai was arrested with his short knicker. And yes, because he actually, when he called and asked, where are you? And I said, we are by the pool. He thought that we were swimming.
Also, he came prepared to swim.
So he dressed up. He dressed up with his shorts. Yeah, it's funny now, but it wasn't funny then. And so you can imagine, he wasn't arrested with a coat, or I was arrested with a pink t-shirt, a jean trouser, and a slippers.
Wow.
Yes, that is how informal everything was. So when you hear Amazonians begin to say, come and tell us what happened, then I get confused. What happened? Because I don't know. I'm also waiting that maybe at some point someone who knows will also tell me what went wrong.
You said something very important, and I really, it is making me to smile, because I remember being one of those who wrote an article saying that Ayok left Nigeria and came here to fight for asylum while abandoning the refugees in Nigeria. I think if somebody look in the WhatsApp forum, they'll see something I wrote in that nature, which really corroborate what you're saying. Now, I think any Amazonian going beyond, like still saying, okay, you knew something, you had an arrangement, I understand. And let me play the devil's advocate, right? It happens to be a very dangerous coincidence that at the same time that Ayok and the others were leaving here to go get that meeting, the Cameroon security forces were already there, right? Their plane was there, as if someone had already briefed them that there was going to be this meeting, come pick them up. I think that is where most people, they based their, what I call conspiracy theory, right? That was an awful coincidence. But again, as we have all seen, it wasn't La République acting manu militari on the territory of Nigeria. Nigeria has never complained that La République violated their territorial integrity, which means it was a complot, right? Nobody needs to tip anybody off that you guys were having a meeting, because it was under the watchful eyes of the Nigerian government. They had all the information on their hands. They were working with La République to Cameroon. They allowed them, because for you to land a plane with your military on the territory of a sovereign country, you must obtain clearance from that government. And the same government that gave you guys, that stamped the passport of Ayok and his cabinet that came back for the end of year, they had the same information. So I really think that your explanation should clarify a lot of doubts, unless people want to keep in with the witch hunt, which for me, I really consider as very minute details. But what really comes to mind is, given that you guys who look like the moderates, right, in Ambassador, who want the peaceful protest, you want Ambassadors to come out, you want like citizens to come out, and let's protest to override the injustice, the human rights abuse, the extrajudicial killing, the arbitrary arrest. With all of these moving particles, where do you situate the state of human rights in that sub-region? How would you grade it?
In which of the regions again? Remind me.
In Cameroon. How would you grade?
Or in Ambazonian?
Both in Cameroon and in Ambazonian. Can we talk about human rights anymore? Or should we just accept that it is a jungle and everybody brings out the walls?
I earlier told you that Cameroon has no rule of law. A country that has no rule of law, then there's definitely no human rights, because if you respect the rule of law, then definitely there's human rights present. You don't forget that Cameroon and Nigeria, basically it's Nigeria. Nigeria went against the 1951 Refugee Convention, which they are a signatory and have fully ratified that convention. The core principle of that convention is the principle of non-refoulement. They are not allowed for any reason to send back someone to another country when they know that this person is going to be subjected to torture, inhuman treatment, if it's going to endanger this person's life. Although it also says that except the person poses a national security issue to your country, which was not the case, because this group of people, like you rightly said, were the moderates. Okay, they were the ones who said no to picking up all the sticks and the guns. They were the ones who said no, we can protest, we can talk, we can, but then Nigeria still bundled us. So the problem is Cameroon has no human rights anything. Now, forget about arbitrary arrest. In every aspect of Cameroon, there is nothing. No rights. In the courts, most of the time, you have enough money, then you are better off. Because not just the judges, the other person that is above the judges is taking orders from the other person who is above him, and then the ladder keeps going. Okay? Sometimes you get a verdict like the verdict of the Nera 10. The question is, they were given life imprisonment. What is the evidence? No evidence. They don't have any even online article of any of us saying that the whole country should be burned down. They have nothing. They took our phones, but there was basically nothing there.
Wow.
So the question is, if Cameroon for some reason had a bit of respect for human rights, then they wouldn't be in jail. They will not do that, because to put someone in jail after going to countless court sessions. You have to prove that these people actually did what it is that you said they did. So no, Cameroon has no recognition for human rights. No, that's not true.
Okay, now with this affirmation of yours, right, that Cameroon is basically a jungle, right, survival of the fittest, are you still comfortable telling Ambazonians, telling La Republic citizens to go out there and put their necks on the line and protest? Do you still hold that position?
Liman, it looks like you don't want to die anytime soon.
I really want to understand from your point.
Yes.
You still hold that close to your heart?
Because the problem is we are still dying. You see, that's the problem. We are still dying. You see? So now it doesn't really matter whether we go or we don't go. The death toll is there. Now, do we say, okay, let's go 10 years while the death goes gradually to maybe 50 every week, or do we go for 1 week and just beat it to 500 and then get it done? That's the question we need to be asking ourselves. That's the honest truth.
That's a little bit scary, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think something also we need to do as activists, our focus has been on the population, okay? I think we need to also talk to the military. Yeah? They need to know that this fight is not just for us civilians. It is for them and for us. Yeah, because a normal military man in Bamenda is facing the same problem like you and I, if not worse. Sometimes they go for months without salary. So we need to get them on our side. That's why you see sometimes in the protest, they send the military out and then the military drops their weapons. Why do you think that happened? Because the military are educated. They have discovered that the people are actually fighting for what even they want. So we need to extend our advocacy to them. They need to know that we are not fighting. They are not the ones we are fighting, because they are also taking orders from someone else. They need to know that we are fighting the system. They are part of the system, that's true, but they are just taking orders. If they could just look at it from our point, then I think our protest will be just fine.
Wow, thank you very much. Comrade Brice, let me try to ask you this in French if I can. It's been a while, I don't use that language, it's a little bit rusty. Just so your audience should not feel like this is just something for Ambazonians to worry about, Tu as écouté ce que Barista Nolova a dit. Elle a décrit cette situation où les droits de l'homme ne sont pas respectés. Les procédures judiciaires ont été mises à côté. Donc, on a écarté ça complètement. Comme notre frère Piqué, il a dit, cette situation va seulement éclater. Comme les droits de l'homme ne peuvent pas être respectés, les citoyens sont abattus, les droits de l'homme ne sont pas respectés. À ton avis, est-ce qu'on peut encore parler de droits de l'homme et affaires d'arrestation de nos civiliens? On peut encore parler d'un état de droit dans ce territoire où on doit seulement attendre que le pire arrive et tout le monde, ce qui arrive, ça arrive. Qu'est-ce qu'on doit faire comme les activistes, les citoyens qui aiment la terre de leurs ancêtres?
Je pense que tout a déjà été dit par Piqué Nalova. On a identifié le mal.
Bien sûr.
Le problème ici, là, maintenant, c'est comment faire pour éradiquer le mal. Parce qu'il y a quelque chose de fondamental aussi que Nalova vient de dire. Si tu ne te bats pas, tu meurs. Si tu te bats, tu risques de mourir. Mais ce qu'elle elle n'a pas ajouté, c'est que il faut te battre pour ta survie. Parce que si tu te bats, tu as des chances de survivre. Par contre, si tu ne te bats pas, ce qui est sûr, tu es mort. Parce que tous les Camerounais sont des survivants dans leur pays. On dit souvent que c'est des zombies. Ils sont zombifiés. Quand on dit déjà que vous êtes des zombies, ça veut dire que vous êtes morts, mais vous marchez seulement. Donc, on ne doit pas baisser les bras. On doit se battre pour notre survie parce que c'est une histoire de survie. Si on laisse ces gens continuer de nous dominer, ce sera catastrophique, non pas pour nous, mais pour les générations à venir. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, nous sommes ce qu'on appelle la génération sacrifiée. Donc, il va falloir qu'on prenne nos responsabilités pour que nos enfants ne subissent pas ce que nous avons subi durant des décennies. Donc, c'est très important de mentionner ça. Ce combat est le nôtre. Ce n'est pas un combat à léguer à nos enfants. Parce que si on lègue ce combat à nos enfants, nous aurons échoué sur tous les points. Donc, nous ne devons pas baisser les bras. Quelles que soient les difficultés qu'on rencontre, nous devons nous battre pour un état de droit, un endroit paisible pour nos enfants. Disons-nous que, avec tout ce que nous vivons actuellement, si nous décidons d'attendre le temps que ça va prendre, ça peut prendre même 40 ans, même 50 ans, ça veut dire que nous condamnons d'office nos enfants à subir, et peut-être même les enfants de nos enfants à subir la même chose. Non, ce ne serait pas juste. Nous avons le devoir et même l'obligation de faire ce qu'il faut pour que ce système s'arrête. Nous avons le devoir et même l'obligation de nous battre pour un état de droit effectif dans notre pays. Ça, c'est quelque chose, ça doit être le fondement même de notre combat. On ne doit pas baisser les bras. Sinon, on fait comment? On laisse nos enfants dans une plantation où les gens vont les kidnapper à volonté, les torturer à volonté, les éliminer quand leur tête n'arrange pas X ou Y. Non, on doit réinstaurer l'état de droit dans nos différents pays africains et pour le cas du Cameroun en particulier.
Oui, tu as bien dit, il faut qu'on restaure l'état de droit. Mais tu sais que le rapport de force n'est pas favorable.
Non, c'est faux.
Ok.
Le peuple est souverain. Il n'a jamais tort. Le seul qui a la force légitime, c'est le peuple. Ce n'est pas ceux qui sont au pouvoir là. Ils n'ont pas assez de munitions pour tuer 1 million de personnes, même 500 000 personnes. Ils ne peuvent pas. Encore que dans ce peuple, il y a même les membres de leur famille. Le peuple est souverain, il n'a jamais tort. C'est le peuple qui donne la force à ceux qui sont là. Et le jour où le peuple décide de retirer cette force, ils ne sont plus rien. Donc, les histoires que les gens viennent raconter sur les plateaux télé en disant, bah, écoutez, eux, ils ont les armes, ils ont la force militaire. Ils ont combien de militaires? Ils ont quelle force? Aucune armée au monde, je dis bien aucune, même pas celle des États-Unis, ne peut faire face au peuple américain si jamais le peuple américain est déterminé. C'est au peuple de se rendre compte de cette évidence. Ils ne sont pas forts. C'est nous qui ne nous rendons pas compte de notre force. C'est nous qui donnons le pouvoir, ce qu'on appelle le pouvoir. En réalité, le seul pouvoir appartient au peuple. Et il n'est jamais quitté des mains du peuple. Il est toujours entre les mains du peuple. C'est juste que le peuple ne se rend pas compte. Et c'est là où nous entrons en jeu. C'est que nous enseignons au peuple que effectivement, ce sont eux les véritables tenanciers du pouvoir. C'est le peuple qui est souverain. Qui donne la souveraineté à un État? C'est le peuple. Ce ne sont pas les dirigeants qu'on met. Ils ne sont que des représentants qu'on peut remplacer le jour où on décide de remplacer. Quels que soient les moyens qu'on utilise, que ce soit par le vote ou les manifestations populaires. Personne ne fait face à un peuple déterminé. Maintenant, il faut qu'on soit ce peuple-là. Parce que jusqu'à présent, au Cameroun, nous sommes une population où chacun se mêle de ses affaires et ne s'intéresse pas trop. Quand c'est l'enfant du voisin qui a un problème, il ne regarde pas, il veut regarder ses propres enfants grandir, tout. Il faut qu'on apprenne à devenir un peuple uni. Et devenir ce peuple uni-là passera par nous, par cette éducation-là. On ne doit pas laisser tomber. On doit continuer d'insister. C'est très important.
Merci beaucoup, mon frère. Tu as bien parlé. Et donc, si on accepte que le peuple détient ce pouvoir, détient cette souveraineté sur leur territoire. Mais on est face à une situation où on a les jeunes qui sont affamés. La famine a été utilisée comme une moyen de guerre contre leur population. Les jeunes n'ont pas de travail. Ils n'ont pas quoi manger. Donc, ils n'ont pas de temps pour réfléchir par rapport à leur avenir. Ils ne peuvent même pas garantir leur présent. Ils meurent de faim. Et c'est pourquoi certains comme vous avez sorti avec ce slogan de anti-sardinat, brigade anti-sardinat, parce que cette peuple se nourrit des sardines. Quand on leur donne de jour en jour, pour les rendre un peu zombifiables, ils se zombient avec les miettes des sardines. Donc, comment tu penses que toi, comme activiste, tu peux faire sortir ce genre, cette population de cette mentalité sardinale?
Ce n'est pas nous qui allons les faire sortir de cette situation. Piquet l'a bien mentionné tout à l'heure. Eux-mêmes sortiront de cette situation le moment venu, quand ils ne pourront plus supporter cette situation-là. Et c'est pour bientôt, parce que les choses ne font qu'aller de mal en pire. Quand vous regardez peut-être, parlons du fuel, le carburant qui va augmenter encore. Et quand le carburant va augmenter, eh ben, tout va augmenter sur le marché. Sauf que le pouvoir d'achat du Camerounais est tellement bas. Ce que tu pouvais faire avec 10 000 francs, tu ne pourras même plus le faire avec 50 000 francs. À un moment donné, ils vont se rendre compte qu'ils n'en peuvent plus. Et c'est pour très bientôt. C'est pour ça qu'il dit, nous devons maintenir, n'est-ce pas, cette éducation de masse. C'est très important. Le reste là, ils le feront. Rien ne dure éternellement.
Ouais.
Merci beaucoup. Comrade Piquet, you've heard Brother Max's position about the state of Cameroon. The internal combustion is there. The fuel, the material, and the energy is there for that combustion. But given the state, right, of the mindset of our people, right, the docility, the subservient nature of our people who have been bombarded for years, you know, with hunger. Famine has been weaponized in that sub-region. What do you think, other than the famine, do you think there is a political will for these people to look at themselves and say, okay, you know what, we have had enough. We need to walk out of this entanglement. Do you see that as a perspective?
You see, again, as Max had actually summarized everything very, very precisely. Cameroonians are not different from any other person in the world. It has also happened like that. It's just that we still have some constraints that are keeping the people subservient and, you know, afraid of everything, which is actually one of the instruments that the state actually employs. You know, our people grew in an environment of fear. Our people went to school in an environment of fear. They got employed in an environment of fear. They are working in an environment of fear. And fear is because of ignorance. When people get the knowledge, they start to walk out of those concentric circles of fear. And again, as I said, if you will graph it up and see, for example, the emancipation level of the people for the past 10 years has grown so far. Just like Nalova said, people didn't have the smartphones, not to talk of these smart apps that are adding to these things. So it's a natural process. We have to maintain our educational process in the diaspora, which is a different experience. And the people down there, they're going to also get informed, emancipated, and also will be like looking for what they can do to better of their own lot. They'll be watching television, watching TikTok and all those things, what's happening in other parts of the world, revolt against sanguine dictators. It also, gives them information of how to do with their own. Right now in Cameroon, there are 1,000 different groups that can actually topple Biya off Etudi. It's just that they don't know themselves. So it's a matter of knowing themselves. But then they call it again critical mass, how one thing leads to another. It's always a trigger. It's like people always think about the Amazonian problem as if it started in 2016. It didn't start in 2016. It started back in the 1960s. But the problem is the few understood it were afraid of their lives. So they kept moving on and moving on and moving on. They always say, if you can't win them, join them. But even if he's unhappy, he has joined them. You see, after a while, the people started getting more and more emancipated, more and more knowledgeable. The Amazonian thing that actually happened in 2016, the lawyers and the teachers strike, was a trigger of something which has been there before. You see, the gunpowder, the powder keg had been there before. So it was just a spark that made it like this. And people say, oh, they want to destroy Cameroon. It has been there before. People have been dying in the 90s because of the same problem. But the difference now is there was a critical mass in the diaspora that could maintain the heat. You see, that's why Biya was very concerned about the diaspora, and some people have taken his position because, oh, the diaspora is the one who is doing this bad thing to you guys in Cameroon. It's not true. The difference is the diaspora will never go away. The diaspora is there till the end of the world. So what they have to do now is to discourage the people from listening from the diaspora, which is not true. The diaspora still have their own family down there. Their families have been killed down there. So it's a matter of time. And you see, it's like we have already gone over the cliff. Now it's waiting to fall on the bottom of the valley. You see what I'm saying? So now it's like, how do you fall? Are you going to be able to survive when it falls? They know it's coming. There's a lot of pressure in Cameroon, from east, from west, from north, from south. There's a lot of pressure. See what happened in Gabon the other day. What happened in Gabon the other day, to me, is a decoy. It just happened like that. The bongo were kept on the side. Everything continued as normal. In Cameroon, it's not going to be that easy, because you have to look at the proportion of the demographics of Gabon and then look at the proportion of the demographics of Cameroon, which is a much bigger country, many different types of people from different angles, having different cultural bases. So people think in different directions, and I think the time of Biya is almost coming to an end. If actually Biya goes and Cameroon doesn't change, then Cameroon is going to be worse than any country, I mean, in Africa. Because it's a shame that at this level, Biya is 90 years old. Most of his cabinets are around that age. And people who are even 30, 40 years younger are still hoping that he should run for the 2025 election. It tells you that people are mad. You see, they don't have an option. They're afraid. What's going to happen? Oh, how is it going to go away? What are we going to eat? That is a problem. And that is where it's going to happen. There are forces, macroeconomic forces occurring that they cannot control. For example, the fuel issue, the petrol issue was one of those macroeconomic factors that occurs from outside. And then the people inside cannot really understand the complication, the complexity of the market. Today, most of the revolutions in the world is about the market. It's the way people receive things. And even if you go back in the past, the Lenin of Russia, what they call him, Maximilien Robespierre of the French Revolution, it was all about bread. When people don't have to eat, they will attack those who are in the realms of power. But the difference is we have a very fertile soil. We are a very rich country where people can always turn back to their backyards, go to their farms and get things and survive. So we are not very much dependent on the supermarkets and all those kind of things like in other societies. So, but again, it might just stretch the time a little bit, but the time is going to come when the critical mass is going to be at its level of explosion, and Biya or whoever cannot hold it, because it's the people who are going to decide. It's them who actually retain the power. You see, but it comes like an electric shock. It's a capacity. There should be a trigger. And that trigger, the fun with that trigger is you never know where it comes from. It can just be a journalist killed. Just a journalist can be killed, and then the whole thing is over. You see, you will never know, because it comes at the end of the day when those things have been piling up and piling up and piling up. People who are smart should ask themselves, how come the people who found themselves in the Northwest and the Southwest region all of a sudden got so rich that even people from the hinterlands picked up Dane guns to fight a professional military? It's not because we're crazy. It's because they had reached a level where they could not take it anymore. Everybody has his own what they call threshold of patience. You see what I'm saying? The francophone majority, they're still a little bit away from their own threshold of patience. They have to get to that threshold of patience, but that comes only through proper education. And actually, I'll tell you, Beer has put everything on the table for them to choose. So it's our people now who have to choose wisely to see exactly how they can continue, with the evolution of the country. Nobody can stop it. Nobody has the capacity to stop the people when they go wild. Nobody. It has never happened in life. You see, they cannot use the guns again like in the past because it's all ideology. You see, it's just like the Bia thought they was going to crush the Ambazonian forces in 2 weeks. They're still there, struggling. Nobody is now safe. Even the soldiers are afraid to go into the heat and land roads because at any time, somebody can shoot at you. At any time, a bomb can go off and destroy the armored car. All those things were myths. Now they're all broken down. So it's coming to that level where they have what they call mutual respect now. And when people don't have mutual respect, they will not be able to make good laws that they can respect. You see, when one thinks he's above the other one, he can always disrespect the law. But when people start to feel an equilibrium, they're going to start to respect each other because they realize that I can do as much harm to you as you can do to me. That's how Europeans are today. Europeans know that the best way is to maintain peace because when they get wild, it gets really wild. So as soon as the African elites think that they always have the upper hand, we'll always have this problem. But the moment the people from the street start to actually confront them and also be able to inflict harm and danger to them, as they've been doing to the poor people in Africa, we will never get anywhere. So it's very important the people realize, as Mark said, that they are the ones who have the power. They are the ones who have the power. Not that guy who comes and stands there with the green, red, yellow across and said, oh, we are this. No. The people, those guys selling up and down, they are the ones who have the power. And they have to know that they have the power because they never knew that they had the power. That's why some people still go and burn down government buildings. You're not burning a government building. You're burning the people's building. But the government gave the impression that it's their building because it's a kind of it's a jar bell, you know. It's a bell. They're out. They're in there. We are out there. So if you don't belong to the government, it's like you don't have access to those things. And then they put themselves apart. It's kind of an apartheid system in a way. So people are even afraid to go into government offices, which is their property. So that's the problem. It's very deep. And that's part of education. Part of revolutionary education is to let the people know that it's their own, it's theirs. There's nobody else. The government is just a representative right there.
Wow, thank you very much, Comrade PK. I enjoyed that last word. You really got me transfixed on that. Comrade Max, let me come back to you for you to give me a last word. You are a young activist. You speak to your brothers in a better language than we of the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia we can. What word do you have to tell them? We have a situation where nobody is safe. There is no human right for anybody, be it an Ambazonian, be it a citizen from La République du Cameroon. What is your last word to them? Not your last word in the term that this is the last time you're going to talk to them, but on this show, what is it that you want them to understand, like the way forward?
Tout simplement que je vais reprendre une citation populaire. Chaque peuple n'a que les dirigeants qu'il mérite. C'est-à-dire que si vous décidez que vous devez avoir des bons dirigeants, vous savez ce qu'il faut faire. Si vous décidez de rester avec des mauvais dirigeants, vous savez ce qu'il faut faire. Chaque peuple n'a que les dirigeants qu'il mérite. Et on ne doit pas s'apitoyer sur le sort des personnes qui ne veulent pas se battre. Vous devez vous battre pour votre propre survie et surtout pour la survie de vos enfants. C'est tout. Quand vous regardez vos enfants, est-ce que vous voulez que vos enfants vivent dans les mêmes conditions que vous avez vécues? Que votre enfant arrive par exemple à l'hôpital pour une double fracture du bras ou du pied ou de je ne sais quoi, il meurt parce qu'il n'y a pas de bonne prise en charge. Il n'y a pas de bons spécialistes. Est-ce que vous voulez vous asseoir et regarder votre enfant aller en prison pour rien, faire 7 ans, 10 ans? Est-ce que vous voulez que votre enfant subisse ce que Martinez Ogo a subi, ce que Baristanalo a subi, ce que les Sissi Kouayou à Tabé subissent, ce que les Maurice Kamto ont subi, ce que les Mancho Bibixi et tous ceux qui sont enfermés pour rien subissent? Je ne pense pas. Que ce soit vos enfants, que ce soit vos frères, je ne pense pas que vous voulez que vos enfants vivent dans ce genre d'environnement. Et si rien n'est fait, ce sera pareil pour nos enfants. ils vont vivre dans ce genre d'environnement. Si on laisse ce qui est en train de se dessiner, parce qu'ils s'arrangent à mettre Frambia, c'est une évidence. Ils sont en train de s'arranger parce qu'effectivement, ils ne veulent pas se rendre compte que leur système, c'est fini. Donc, ils veulent tout faire pour se maintenir au pouvoir. Est-ce que le peuple camerounais est donc prêt à laisser cela? Vous connaissez très bien les conséquences, ce qui va arriver si vous laissez ce régime perpétuer, se renouveler. Donc, chacun d'entre nous sait ce qu'il a à faire pour sa suivi et pour surtout la suivi de ses enfants. J'insiste sur les enfants. Pensons à nos enfants. Pensez à vos enfants. C'est très important. Voilà, c'est tout ce que j'avais à dire pour ce soir. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde.
Oh, thank you very much. Comrade Barrister Nalubabi, I know this all happened because of your endless efforts. I regret our comrades like Michel Doki and the other barristers could not meet up here. I hope next time we will have time for us to be able to have a better understanding on the fate of our society and how we have to put our hands together. So what is the last word you have for our people? You have been in the claws of the devil. You have overcome it. You are now in the diaspora with us, and you are able to bring up this talk. This I'll call it you are in an incubator of something bigger for our people to understand that the rights of Ambazonians is tied to the rights of La République du Cameroon citizens. We are all victims of the same colonial authority. You know, what is your last word to our people, especially to your brothers who were illegally kidnapped and sent to La République by the authorities of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Comrade Lehman. Let me start to my colleagues that were abducted. I know they are holding on strong. I have never seen people that a government has tried to break, but still it looks like they are breaking the government. You know, I'm hoping that as Ambazonians, I will talk to Ambazonians. For La Republic citizens, I think Max should and the others, they should be doing the job. What we need right now is genuine collaboration amongst us. We don't need, I am one of those people who don't believe in, I don't know, if I say unity, people will get it wrong, but I don't believe in a one-party system. Okay? I think we are okay. People can have 1 million parties, but as long as they are working towards the same goal, for me, it's okay. It provides check and balances to the system. I think that is one of the reasons why there was some resistance in Cameroon for multipartism. You have to agree with me that multipartism to an extent helps as well. But we need genuine collaboration, not collaboration when it best suits us. I will give you an example in 2019 when we first had the Justice for Nera 10 campaign to sensitize the world about what happened in 2018. It was one of the largest campaigns that Ambazonians have made since the struggle started. And why was that? Because at that point, the collaboration was still working to a certain extent. Okay. At that time, people did not care if I was a follower of A or B or C. We all came together as one man because those in jail are not just leaders, they are Ambazonians. They are our people. You fight first for them, and then you ask questions later. First, you try to get them out of the lion's den, and then you say, oh, come and sit here. So what happened? You don't try to demoralize them while they are in the lion's den and still fighting from there. We all know what happened during the days of the trials in court. We all know the things that Seseko said in court. You know, that's to tell you that although they are in jail, their love for Ambazonia seems to be stronger than even many of us who are out here. And I hope that they keep that faith in them, at least to put the enemy to shame, especially those who think that for some reason they have been compromised. I keep asking God every day to continue to give them the strength that they have exhibited for the last 6 years. And also for Ambazonians to realize that being in the struggle is not a step for political achievement. No, it is a fight for your people. When most of us got into this struggle, believe me, we didn't know many things. When we started in 2016, we were just angry with the way things were going. The bad roads, the issue of introducing submissions in French. We were looking at the people, and every other thing was secondary. And that is the same ideology that we need to come back to as Ambazonians, to say, I don't want to be the one to be seen like I'm the leader of the struggle. I don't want to be seen like I control this. I don't want to say, I just want to do the job. If you would talk to a member of the consortium in the early days, I was not a leader of the consortium. In fact, I was a nobody in the consortium, but we did the job. We did all this sensitization, the going to talk to people in the market, the sharing of the files. But I was nobody. I was not a secretary. I was just somebody who would just follow Barrister Bobga when they are going for meetings. That is because when in your brain you think that you want to help a people, you don't think about anything else. You just do it. We were doing that not because, remember, we're lawyers. No matter how bad the system was, we could navigate through. But now the question was, what about the mothers in the village? What about the market women? Okay, I had a shop in the market, in the food market, and I know what taxation, people from taxation used to do to people who didn't even have a capital of up to 100,000 francs. So we were fighting for these people, not for ourselves. And that is the impression that every Ambazonian needs to get. Every Ambazonian needs to understand that this division that we have now, it's not good for our struggle. It is like we say that Bia is doing divide and rule. Yeah, but that is what is happening to us. And I don't think Bia did it. I think we are doing it to ourselves. Bia has no part. Believe me, when people say, oh, Bia has done nothing, we are doing it to ourselves. Because when you see the way people go around fighting, oh, I want to be the one to sit in front of, I don't know what table it is, the table that like public has even refused to sit on. I want to be. That's where we have that problem. Everybody wants to see like I'm in charge. And actually, nobody is in charge. That's the honest truth. Nobody is. Because I'll be honest with you, if I live here today and decided to meet with Biden, you, Lehman, cannot stop me. PK cannot stop me. Am I lying?
No.
So no one is in charge. So the least we can do to our people is to sit as one man and agree on how we can do things, the same things, maybe in a different, the different things, but in the same way. One person can do this, the other person do this, and we are all going to Boya. Let the destination be Boya, and not how to build your political careers. Some of us did not uproot our lives and come to Europe for people to think that it was all about politics. No, I didn't even know about it. Believe me, you'll be shocked that it is only when I came to the diaspora that I understood that actually we might just have been doing this thing maybe the wrong way. We were doing it by ourselves. All the flyers we were making by ourselves. The sensitization we used to just contribute our money amongst ourselves, and then now you come to the diaspora, it's different. And like I told PK once, that the way I perceive the diaspora, and I'm sorry to say it, but it looks like a lot of diasporans had left Cameroon for economic reasons, political reasons, whatever their reasons were. And because Bia had suppressed the Ambazonians for so long that we were nowhere near politics, good offices, the normal things that the people want. And so now most people are seeing this as an opportunity to become those things. You have a president fighting for a no country, things like that. Everybody wants now to portray themselves, but it doesn't work like that, because as of now, we are still fully occupied by La Republique. The money we use belongs to La Republique. How do I say? Even the electricity that comes into our houses is provided by a company that pays taxes to the government of Cameroon. We need to get down our high horses, really down. I mean, down, very lower than 2016. That's how low we need to go to be able to move forward. We need to allow all these big people, grammar and all of that, and just look at those people on the ground.
Wow. Thank you very much, Comrade Nalova. The sun is almost like getting straight into my eyes. That's why you see me like moving my head a little bit.
You have some
before we go, any last word for our listeners, to the Ambazonian public who have become docile and very discouraged with what is going down and some of the abuses of some few rope amber fighters, as well as the continuous killing of our people? Any last word to them, real quick, as we round up?
Of course. Of course. You see, when people are docile and kind of disappointed, we use one word to say they are delusional. People have been delusional because of the mismanagement of the opportunities that the people had to actually put something on the table and come out with rational issues, because of cutthroat opportunists. Like Barrister Nalova said, those who see it as their fortune wheel of politics. You see, we need total education. People don't have to give up. The sad story, sometimes those who actually try to badmouth the struggle are people who are not really suffering in the sense of like professional wise and so on. But ask yourself, why is it the poor people fighting? Because if you go and look at the profile of the Amber boys, you don't see anything big there. They're all guys who are on the streets running around the place. In all revolutions of the world, is the downtrodden who have the highest zeal of fighting, because to them, they have to maybe take care of a blemished life to better off their lot. The educated ones, the professionals, they come as latecomers always to come and control. But when the real fight goes on, it's not them. This applies also to the Francophone population, which needs a lot of education. And it's a good thing that the BAS, the BAS is doing that, because we need both sides to learn, understand certain things, certain realities. You cannot live in isolation, and the only way to take away the crime that's going on right now, even in Amazonia, is not the abandonment aptitude that people have, like they abandon them. No, it's only the population which is going to contain the fallout of the revolution. It's not the military. The military cannot stop that kidnapping, violence, and so on. The military cannot. They have never. It's the population that can stop it. And the population will stop it only by addressing the real problems, and also those problems that actually derive from the real problems. Both sides is the same. The system is so rough, the environment is so tricky that the state itself hasn't got enough capacity and capability to contain the madness that is out of the Pandora box. So the only way that we can maintain peace back and order in that society is only through the right education of the people, who are going to now put their hands on the table for a better environment, for a better society. Either they have to vote for the right people to be their leaders, or they themselves have to take the things in their hands and make sure that they maintain a society which is actually conducive for their own progress. There's no quick fix. Nobody's going to come and do it. The state cannot do it. The state hasn't got that capacity to be able to handle such a complex and intricate fallout. It cannot. You see, so the Amber boys, or whoever they call it, they are now like the so-called maquisards in the past. You see, what the state does is it isolates them from the people and then let them be the criminals. No, the same Amba boys belong to the people. So the people have a responsibility to be able to make sure that they stop their kidnappings, their arbitrary killings and things like that, and fight for the right cause. That has to also occur in the French part of Cameroon. It's a lockstep. It has to go like that. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Before we leave, Comrade Max, let me catch you last word. What do you have to tell your Ambazonian brothers, the activists, the citizens? What last word for them?
Comme d'habitude, moi, j'apporte tout mon soutien, n'est-ce pas, à ceux qui se battent pour leur dignité, pour leur liberté. C'est très important de le préciser. Ceux qui se battent aujourd'hui, beaucoup ne comprennent pas leur combat. C'est après que les gens comprendront. C'est la même chose qui s'est passée quand les gens de l'UPC se battaient pour la libération du Cameroun. Comme Piqué l'a bien mentionné tout à l'heure, on les a longtemps traités de tous les noms. Ils étaient des terroristes même à l'époque. Mais après, on a compris leur combat. Donc, beaucoup de courage à mes frères ambazoniens. Surtout, ne baissez pas les bras parce que le combat est juste. Donc, il ne faut pas se lamenter. Il faut continuer d'être fort. Nous savons que c'est difficile, mais nous allons vous apporter notre soutien à notre niveau pour que cette histoire s'arrête définitivement. Donc, beaucoup de courage à tous ceux qui sont encore enfermés aujourd'hui, injustement. Voilà. Merci et bonne soirée à tout le monde.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you, Comrade PK. Madame Nalobabi, you've been the best. I just want to thank all of our viewers giving us this opportunity to bring our own small contribution. And we are looking forward to you guys. Don't be a stranger, Comrade PK. Comrade Max, anytime you guys have time, stop by. Nalobabi is always here to welcome us on his program. Thank you guys for being part of this show. Let's have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Thank you, Liman, for hosting us.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
have a wonderful weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.